We'll do it live.
All right, this is episode 5 of No Major Opinions.
6.
I could have sworn it was 5. Well, it's an episode where omnigamer's a guest. I think that would be a little easier.
Oh yeah, it is 5.
He's speedrunning. He's been speedrunning a while. He's been doing stuff with GDQs. He's well known, particularly now with the dragster shit. I think he's got a little more fame outside the speedrunning thing. Whether that's for better or worse, it's hard to say. But I guess just a quick roll call. I'm Nagleria.
I'm Lineru. Hello.
I'm Caveman.
Dark Fox
is also
would be saying his name.
You'll see him later.
And I'm omnigamer. Hey, everybody.
So I guess just before we get into it, it's like anything hot recently people been getting into? I know the SGDQ registration opened. Who got in?
Yeah. I haven't submitted anything yet because I haven't decided what games I haven't been running all year. I want to pretend that I've been running every day so I can get a run in the marathon yet. But it'll happen, I'm sure.
Haven't you had a game in every marathon you've been to yet?
No, I didn't have games. I didn't have games in SGDQ 2017, and I didn't go to, or something happened. I didn't go to no.
Just because I know that, like, there's games that you got in which I don't understand why they got in. And it seems like you're it's like you're the master of the submission process. Like you can get any hot garbage.
I used to think that, but only recently have I been back at GDQs. It was the year without Caveman. It was a dark time.
Lineru, he's NASA staff and shit, but I think it's your first time on the No Major Opinions.
It is, yeah. Crazy. Someone who's in radio and they've never been on this podcast. How dare that happen?
What do you do in radio? Because I know it's like you do radio, but I don't know.
Well, right now, I'm almost done my program. I'm currently doing an internship at a radio station in Toronto. I won't give full details on that, but I am at a radio station right now, and I've been helping out with production there. And after that, it'll be hopefully an on-air gig somewhere, possibly in Alberta, if all hell fails in Ontario.
Will you be doing live or pre-recorded?
That depends on the company.
Yeah, it does.
Also, Dark Fox, welcome to the stream.
Hello.
You been up to anything since the last episode?
Not really. Played some Dragon Ball Fighter. And that's basically the only video game I've played because I've been really busy. So, yeah, nothing.
Cool.
And OmniGamer, I mean, like you've done a handful of things like recently and over the past few years. What's the first thing on your mind of the past few weeks, I guess?
I mean, all that I've been doing for the last 2 months is working on doing production stuff for my book. And there's a lot of I've had the text for the book done since last July. And that just tells you how much more there is on top of it when you try to start including pictures and laying out everything nicely and stuff like that. And there's just a lot to do with it. So I've been doing that probably a couple hours every night for the last 2 months.
I remember on SDA you had a thread on the theory of speedrunning sort of thing. I guess the book is sort of the production quality of that forum thread.
There's a couple different things. A long time ago, I made a thread that was basically asking, if you were going to make an all-in-one guide of how to speedrun, here's all the different sections that I think would go in there, who has things that they would like to contribute, and
any genre of game and any...
Yeah, just
a
something
one-stop shop, yeah.
How to really think about trying to make yourself good at a speed game and to make your route not suck and the rest of that stuff. And at the time, people were like, yeah, this is great, but it looks like a lot of work. And so nobody did anything on it.
Speedrunners are notoriously lazy.
So a couple of years after that, I just said, hey, you know what? I've got the ability to do this, and I've got the drive, the motivation to do it right now. So I'll get it done, because I don't know that I will have that same motivation a couple of years in the future.
So I guess, how long have you been speedrunning? Because I know you've been at a bunch of GDQs, and you've probably been running games before that, maybe?
Let's see. My first completed run was Skyblazer in 2011. And I had known about speedrunning for a while before that. Like I used to collect internet videos before YouTube was a thing. So I went around and I would check out SDA's early incarnation and grab cool videos from there, because like you don't really get to see anything like that. Like we take it for granted now. There's all these resources, all sorts of different games have runs and that kind of thing. But if you go to like 2005 era SDA, you look on, there's maybe 60 games in the entire games list. And that is the world of speedrunning. Like there's just not much more than that. So what you get from there is how you take it. And like before that, I saw the famous Morimoto video, which I think inspired a lot of people. And believe it or not, my younger brother was actually the first speedrunner in my family. And in like 2004, 2005, he was trying to do Metroid Prime speedruns, recording them on VHS, and he was going to send them in. I don't think we actually did that. I think I actually still have them at the house. But so I've known about it, but I didn't get involved until 2011.
I want to do a joke about how you have a tape.
Oh yeah,
of the
those
evidence.
tapes. Nobody cares about shitty tapes, though.
The evidence it's there somewhere.
It's gotta be. Yeah, and then 2011, I was just out of undergrad, so starting grad school, I had extra time on my hands. And at about that time, my roommate had moved out, so doing all the co-op or other things like playing League, you kind of lose out a lot of fun when you're not right there next to your bud. So I needed a new venture, and I remember I started looking back through the internet videos, and it's just like, hey, speedrunning, I think that's something I can do. And
when did you start collecting SNES games? Because that looks like you've amassed a decent collection over the years.
So the story for that goes, when I was living in Dayton, Ohio, this was in like 2012. So if you remember, also on STA, there was the Game Exchange.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if it was supposed to be the bad Game Exchange to start, but it definitely turned into that, where you have to give somebody a game and they will run it in return for you running their game that they send to you.
I think even like before it was officially bad, it's like I'm pretty sure everyone was like, I'm going to give him hot garbage, whatever I send them.
Yeah. So that was actually my intro to collecting, because I lived pretty close to 3 retro shops that got new stock all the time. And I would just, every Saturday, I would take an hour and a half, go around, visit all 3, and pick up their like bargain basement SNES games that look particularly raunchy. And well, then I got a lot of games, and they're like, well, hey, I've gotten this many, I might as well continue to improve it.
How many do you not have? Do you know?
I actually have a list somewhere. I don't count sports games anymore because
I understand completely.
Fair.
But I not including the sports games. I think there's between 10 and 15 games that I'm missing.
And that's I think the SNES had like 700.
730 something. It depends on what you count and whether or not you include like Brazilian releases and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But getting pretty up there.
What would you say was the hardest game in your collection that you've had to find at the stores?
I don't know about hard, because I don't really I have a list that I check through every once in a while, but for the main thing is I just kind of keep it in the back of my head. And as I'm going through a store, if I see a title that looks familiar and it's just like, I don't think I have that, then I'll check the price, and it's just like, well, if I can stomach it at the moment, I'll pick it up. But there were a couple instances of games that I found that were either mismarked or otherwise that were extra cheap for what they should have been. The one that I'm remembering the most right now is Captain Commando, which I got for $3, and I think it sells for $125 or something right now. So,
do you prowl garage sales or anything like that?
No, I don't. I am really bad about garage sales. Like, I'll pass by a sign and like, I should check that out, and then I never do.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but they would they would go to garage sales, but also buy every time there was an eBay thing for games in bulk, just a cardboard box full of 100 games. It's they would get that, and they would just try to find that diamond in the rough, and and I remember some collectors they have all sorts of hardcore strategies where you could take it a little less.
No, I'm not that into it.
Mental.
I get games loose because I intend to play them, and I don't have a lot of room to place boxes and whatever else. So, I pick up what I find when I find it, and I'm not too gung ho about getting out there early on.
I just hit 200 PS1 games myself, and I thought I was feeling pretty good about that. But every time I remember that there's only 4,000 more to go.
Yeah.
I started collecting games and stuff, but then I was I'm cheap, so we just got that EverDrive, and I'm never again.
Oh, the old GDQs where I would travel, I'd have an entire suitcase that I would just carry around my games and my systems in.
Yeah, I think it was you and Ness Kamikaze would have a dedicated suitcase of games.
Yeah, and that was before flash drives, so now I travel a lot lighter.
Yeah. I imagine the OSSC kind of would, if you're trying to transport a rig, that would save a lot of room if you had RGB setups or consoles.
It depends.
I guess
if your consoles only do the RGB output at that point, and you can't reliably get any kind of analog inputs to your hotel TV or anything else that you'd want to play.
That'd be a lot more contextual. But it's tech's improved a lot in that area. There's a lot of software as well. You've made hitbox viewers, right, and stuff like that. Input displays, hitbox viewers, and I've had
too many projects. I would guess more than half of the games that I've speedrun, I've made a hitbox viewer for, and then another 5 to 10 on top of that, I've just made viewers for other people because it's kind of fun.
How hard is that to make? Because I have no idea what that entails.
I have a groove for it now. So, when I was first getting into it and trying to figure out how everything worked in the game internals and stuff like that, it was rough. It probably took the better part of a week to figure out and come up with the appropriate way to code it and everything. Now, I think I made one viewer in a night, one of the most recent ones, but a lot of it has to do with how the game is coded. So.
I imagine it's you can't have a program to do it for a bunch. It's every game would be a per game basis sort of deal.
Yeah, every game does it differently. And the trick is how easy is it for you to figure out what that setup is. So it's just about data structures, if we want to go computer science stuff here. But if you think of here's your enemy, in memory, there's going to be a whole block, and that block is just HP, defense, attack, blah, blah, blah. And it's all right there. So if you find the HP, you can find the rest of that. And a lot of times they'll have hitbox information as part of that. So if that's the way that it's set up, great. That's really easy for me to work with. Other times it might be that they actually have some routine that they need to go through for a specific enemy. And that is impossible. Instead of all this information on hitbox stuff, it's you're going to jump to this code block instead.
Kind of like collision detection sort of deal, where it's just it has some non...
every attack would have its own way of determining whether it was in or out of a hitbox. And so you don't just have a set of numbers to work with that says, yes, there's a box about that big, that here's the attack. It's, I'm going to go into this algorithm, and the algorithm's going to tell me how big my box is. And that there's no easy way to set up a script for that. But yeah, hitbox viewers are fun, and they have helped me out in a bunch of games. Other things, I had a program where just input viewers for controllers. So you can play directly on your console and it'll just monitor what's going on with the inputs and do a fancy display and all the rest of that stuff. As part of that, I also wanted it to be so that you could record your inputs over a play session and then actually play them back. So if you think of the concept of a TAS where you have this movie file that just plays the inputs, you'd actually be able to do that on console too. And I put that out. You can go download it if you have the right hardware to actually run it and so on. But it's hit or miss. Like there's a lot of complications for it. I've had it sync up for like 12 minutes of gameplay. I've had it desync immediately. It needs some improvement, but like I'd like to see that be more.
I imagine that like the sync issues would be like per console. I remember like Task Block or something. They talked about how the Game Boy or Game Boy Player, it's like they have a thing like on that goes to the controller that tells like when frames start and end. So it's a lot easier to do, but not all consoles might be as nice for sync issues. Have you done input viewers for anything that's like a weird console, not like just a Nintendo or something? Or
I haven't made any, but from a technical standpoint, there's nothing too difficult about interfacing with any of them until you start to go wireless, and then good luck.
What about like motion controls? When do you think that'll be a thing?
If you have a way to basically leech onto the communication that's going back and forth between the Wii and the controller or whatever else, then yeah, you should be able to do it. There's probably actually tools out there, but I'm just not familiar with them. Because
I think like it'd be funny to have like 5 Wii set up, all like one controller going to each somehow. You like, and then like computers, and you can do weird stuff if you could capture like record that somehow or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there's a lot of potential goofy shit you could do if you could. I don't know, but it'll take work to get there. But currently, it's like you and a handful of other people do input stuff. I have like an Arduino. The firmware was made by someone else, but it's like the soldering. It's not difficult to do like hardware-wise, making the wires. It's just like the actual software and code stuff. That's like you need to have special training to actually write a program that does.
Well,
what you want it to do.
But for the program side, so long as somebody makes it, like that's it. Like you can distribute it everywhere. Everybody uses the same thing. It's simple enough, so long as they have a similar setup. But that is actually one of my long-term projects, to make just a single device for a bunch of different consoles that would act as an input viewer, so you wouldn't have to mess up at a controller extender cord to get into and tap your thing anymore. And I've got plans for that. Maybe when I have time eventually.
So would it just be like a plug and play box that has like universal ports on it?
Well, that's a different project. But just think of like, let's say you get your PlayStation controller.
Okay, that's a good. I can understand.
A little block you put in front of the controller, and then you plug your controller into it. So it's just kind of like a little interposer between you and the console. And then that hooks up to your computer through USB and does all the magic that way. And you don't lose anything.
All right, well.
I'm hoping eventually AGDQs will have every game is like the inputs are logged as well as the VOD.
God.
Because I know you're helping out. You help out with GDQs and stuff. Seeing stuff like that would be really cool.
Yeah.
If we just need the layout a little more crowded in the GDQ.
Yeah, that's the.
I don't think you'd need to put that on stream, but just have it. Just have it
dumped to like a text file
for anyone
that anyone
wants
can check.
Here's the inputs.
God,
that could
esports.
Be like, I mean, that still would be useful because not everyone. For any like trick where it's like it could in any game where it's like people, they might not have their own tutorials or anything, but you could have like, here's an example of someone doing like a trick that they kind of just do subconsciously or something like that. I mean, beyond just being cool that it can be done, you could find some use for it.
Could use it for like an interview, like, maybe there's a hard, crazy button combination you have to do for a game, and you got the inputs logged, so then whoever's interviewing can go like, all right, so look at this inputting, something like that. I don't know.
But like, so what do you do for GDQ tech-wise?
That you can talk about.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
I mean,
like,
I basically support, during the events, I am one of the primary, what are called stage techs. So most of my duties will be responsible for getting consoles out there, hooking them up, getting the runners prepared, moving people off the stage if they're hanging out too long in between runs. Basically just the prep work for getting everything in place in between those individual runs. Outside of that, I provide support as far as just insight into what kind of technologies might help our video workflow, how to better capture certain consoles. I do a lot of testing of, say, individual games, or trying to make sure that certain pieces of hardware aren't going to give us trouble. In the past, I've also sourced equipment. So a fair bit of everything, but pretty much all of it just making sure that we have an event that can go despite any unforeseen circumstances.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How come no one on GDQ staff seems to understand the concept of cable ties?
Oh, we do.
There's cable ties all over the place. I think you might be referring to that picture that circulated social media from day -2 setup.
I know
that same picture gets tweeted every single GDQ. I mean, but when you have like, I feel like I want to answer this on his behalf. Just like when you have like a temporary setup, shit's gonna be messy. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, having done the NASA setup, I totally get why things are messy. But the thing is that I was mostly just making a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as your guys' equipment, do you guys use, like, what kind of stuff do you actually hook the consoles into? Like, what does the actual GDQ chain look like? Are you allowed to discuss that publicly?
Yeah, I actually think that's been in a document before, and we've talked about it in the
I'm
past
sure
too.
it has.
But, I mean, it starts out, we work primarily with RGB consoles now. So we've sourced a variety of RGB consoles where needed. So we have an entire slew of NESs and any other consoles that might need modifications to support it. For example, Nintendo 64s and otherwise. And we just have that all around. So we don't have to do any more of the runs back to World 9 and pick up a console for them because we forgot we needed a Saturn coming up or something. I don't know. So that's where it starts. That hooks up by SCART to what's actually a component transcoder. So this is basically taking it from straight RGB space, putting it into YUV. And the reason that we do that first is because that's a heck of a lot easier to split out. Like, you might lose some amount of quality or otherwise, but the main thing is that we have a matrix for component, whereas getting a matrix for RGB is still going to be challenging. You're going to be working with a lot of older equipment. And with component, we can run it directly to the TVs without any loss of latency, any extra latency induced in the chain. So there we go. There's our analog side. The runners can see it all in real time. Great. That component is also split off to some OSSCs, which handle the upscaling, line doubling, all that eventually goes out to an HDMI matrix. HDMI matrix distributes it out to various recording pieces, as well as to the audio mixer and then some. So that is the general flow. There's a couple things that we've considered in the past about kind of consolidating some of that, simplifying it so that we don't have to worry about so many different pieces, but there's always caveats, and we may go with some eventually, but right now that's the chain that we're sticking with.
That's interesting. It's just interesting to hear how you guys have basically gotten to the same end as us, because your equipment chain is so completely different.
Yeah.
So, like, when I heard all of that, my thought was, well, how come you're not just using RGB cables that are made to go out BNC, so that you can just have the cables just go in to a
Well,
BNC
because
matrix. And
so
then
that's
push that
the
into
thing. You have a BNC
OSSC.
matrix, and that's also what for you. So we're trying to keep up on space in our crib too, but it's just one of those things.
Yeah, I'm just because that's how our setup is. So I'm just curious what the
you probably
the
have
difference
an
is.
Extron or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and all of that. What capture cards are you guys using at this point? I don't remember.
You still rocking the CO27 Avermedia?
I am. I don't know about GDQ. No,
I am too. It's cheap. It works.
Most
get
recently, we used a Yuan SC542,
Gotcha.
which is an improved model over what everybody knows is the PEX HD caps or the Micom soft cards or everything else like that.
Yeah.
But the more recent ones are all 4-input HDMI. So every one of those can do 1080p 60. And I had an interesting time testing that out. Just making sure that it wasn't just some brochure hype that couldn't actually support, but it seemed to work fine. So that it's held up pretty well. And we've used it for a couple events now.
Yeah.
And you go ahead.
I was just gonna say I've heard good things about this. What's your next question?
In the speedrunning book you're writing, is there anything on capture stuff like that?
Not yet. And the main reason for that is just that everybody has different needs. By the time that whoever's reading the book gets to it, if I were to try and give specific recommendations for equipment, that might just not exist anymore. And that's the biggest problem. So I can give general recommendations as far as, like, if you're going to need some way to get a distribution amp so that you have it go in your recording setup and your TV simultaneously, here's what you want to look for in general. You don't want to just use a Y splitter, or you don't just want to have it go direct and play off your capture setup because you're likely going to be hitting quarter second of latency or something like that. But as far as specific equipment, no, I don't really go into that detail.
I think that makes sense for a book. You don't want the information to be outdated a year after the book is printed.
I'm sure some of it still will be, but we'll keep up where I can.
I guess, like, since you started, like, when did you start writing it, and like what has changed, I guess, since then?
I've had motivation to work on the book since I think I did my first interview for it in 2015. But I didn't really start work on it in earnest until probably last year. Throughout 2017 is when the bulk of it was written. Before that, a handful of different individual chapters got written up, but until I pieced together a full kind of consolidated view of what it would be, that didn't really come together as a book until 2017.
I think it was Luke that mentioned it's previously stated somewhere that it's like you wanted to write a book for a while.
Yeah, it says that in the introduction, of the preview.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask a question about that. You said you saw yourself writing fiction. What kind of fiction?
Oh, I was going to do fantasy. This is me from when I was like 13 or 14. So swords and dragons and magic is the coolest shit.
It's no surprise you speedrun near.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
By the way, Omni, what is your book called, and where can viewers of our podcast see the preview?
Well, good question, Caveman. This is my book is called Speedrun Science, a long guide to short playthroughs, and you can find it right now. The sample is available at Fangamer. You can use a quick link. I have my own site forwarding to it right now. You can just go to speedrunscience.com, and it'll take you right to their page. It's got about a 30-page sample on there. Check out what several of the chapters will look like and get a sense of what it's going to cover.
I just want to say that's a perfect name for a speedrunning book,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Thanks.
What do you think the end length is going to be like? Like, how chunky of a book am I going to have? And can I get it on my Kindle?
The distribution options aren't set yet. At the very least, it will be, the first edition is going to be hardcover. Whether or not it's going to show up as a full ebook or paperback copy, who knows? We'll figure that out with the publisher as it gets close to release time. In terms of actual length, just going by standard word counts, which is like 250 words per page, I think is the industry standard there. It's something like 400 pages. That also doesn't include the expectation of putting in pictures and stuff like that, though. I think given the size that we're going at, we're looking at 300 to 400 pages will be the final size. So not small, but not quite a textbook either.
Lurk also has a quote selected here of, perhaps the most significant impact that marathons had on the actual hobby of speedrunning was giving it a tangible purpose. Mm-hmm. Is that like a, and yeah, I guess is that like a philosophy you share? Like, because I know that's
something that I discuss. So that quote is from the history section. So that's where I'm going through basically pre-speedrunning all the way through to yesterday. And even on into whatever happens a dozen years from now. What might we expect in the future of speedrunning? And as we go through, I basically try and talk about the things that speedrunning has, what the expectations are at every significant era. And that one is specifically talking about the jump that gets made from, speedrunning is this thing that you can do and you can get a video that's shared on a website, into something that, hey, you can actually do this and it'll have some significant impact on the world that is beyond just your own bragging rights and your sense of accomplishment. So that is something that I wanted to highlight as far as the impact that marathons had on the growth and kind of the purpose that people feel for speedrunning.
Yeah, because I don't think, like, if GDQs weren't a thing, I don't think speedrunning would have blown up on Twitch like it did. I mean, it's still not the most popular thing, but it's like there's a lot of people that do it, and I don't think it's like just because Twitch more people have done it. It's because pure like the marathons, and
well, it's also a good personal motivator too. So if you have a bunch of people who get motivated by, hey, I'm going to support charity by playing games because I love to play games, and now I get to do something with it too. Like that's another positive for keeping people doing it, as opposed to just I really like this one game. I'm going to do it. And now I'm done, and I'm going to leave and go do whatever else.
I guess, but and then there's also like the flip side would be like there's also people. It's like I'll run the game, and then after GDQ's over, it's like, all right, done forever. Throw the crap away. You could see it could have like
who's ever done a thing like that, Gary?
Because I know it's
not
like because where it's like the marathon culture thing of people. It's like I will run a game specifically for this marathon and then drop it, and it's like. And it's like, without marathons, like what the games that people run would be different. It's kind of like weird how it's all shaped together.
I mean, I think an interesting question is if like GDQ hadn't taken off with the charity aspect and everything, do you think that events like NASA, which are not charity based, that are just, meetups with a stream.
Well, like the only reason I even made NASA was just because GDQs, there's too many people at them.
Yeah.
I wanted something a little smaller.
Right. What I'm getting at is, do you think that events like that would have happened on their own, or do you think that GDQ really made marathons happen just by doing it itself? Do you think that naturally we would have arrived at this point?
Because I think like marathons, like GDQs like that, without charity, it's like they still would have grown, but I don't think like the rate would have been nearly as high. But it's kind of hard to say, what could have happened 10 years ago if things went differently. But
I get the sense that meetups would have happened one way or another, regardless. Just because if you have people with a common interest, they're going to find a way to celebrate that with one another. And I mean, from my experience in this, a long time ago, I was involved with the Super Smash Bros. Melee community. And this was at a time when you'd go to a tournament and having 32 people turn out at a tournament was a big show. Like that was a big event. And it was very intimate. Like, you got to know everybody. You saw them at basically all the same tournaments that you go to. And honestly, it was a blast. And like, this was pre-streaming. For the most part, it was pre-YouTube. But those kind of events will make their way into it. And now we just have this easier kind of viewport into it with streaming, that other people can participate vicariously by watching people have a good time and supporting that.
Yeah, I remember Kirk Q asked, like, he was talking about like people where it's like everyone knows this guy if who played Melee if you're from this area, and just like you walked by and Kirk Q yelled at you, that's like, hey, omnigamer, have you ever been in like this dude's basement? Because apparently like in his basement every weekend or something there'd be like a little Melee get together, and you're just like, yep. No, I probably know exactly the basement he's talking about too. There were some shenanigans and some very poor goldfish that happened with these events, but yeah, because it's it's like that's fighting. I think it would translate to speedrunning as well. It's like if there's interest in it, people are gonna get together and do it. Mm-hmm. And I guess we're fighting games, they would have like money match in like tournaments where it's like there's actual prizes. Speedrunning, like I guess with like seasons and seasons 2 coming up, it's like that's the closest it kind of gets. Or occasionally like a dev for a game will be like the Scapegoat 2, or they'll do their own little thing, but there's nothing really the same. The closest we have for like a show is the GDQ marathons.
I think eventually there would have been a GDQ analogy, whether it is the GDQ we know as it is now or not. Like the fighting game analogy, like there's countless fighting game tournaments. There's only one Evo, and Evo didn't start at Evo. Evo started as Battle in the Bay, just like Games Done Quick did not start as Awesome Games Done Quick. Games Done Quick started as, hey, let's go to MagFest, and that fell through, and that turned into Classic Games Done Quick in a basement.
Right.
It just happened. It was almost an accident. So surely, if enough people started to do like meetups and whatever, eventually, especially as streaming became more popular, a certain large annual meetup would have shown up to be the most prominent in the scene. Mm-hmm. Whether it be charity based or not, that's a different question. Like that just happened to be the proposed goal of Games Done Quick because of the Speed Gamers and Desert Bus for Hope. Say that 5 times fast. Like there were already charity gaming marathons, and that's where the inspiration came for our Games Done Quick.
And I remember the Speed Gamers where it's like they weren't like hardcore speedrunners. It was mainly just a charity thing where it's like, I'll just play this game, I know it pretty well, I'll beat it quickly.
Yeah, and that idea predates Games Done Quick.
Yeah,
so one of us would have known that existed already. So the idea was already there before us.
Yeah, I remember watching Speed Gamers.
Yeah, they're still going.
I know.
Yeah,
they'll do events.
So I guess it's like if GDQs didn't have the charity, like because the Speed Gamers also had the charity. It was the same thing of a charity marathon. It's like GDQs just took off more. Exactly why, that'd be kind of hard to find out, but it's what it is.
I was more getting at like that big charity-based event that really got, a lot of public interest in speedrunning. It really fueled the growth of speedrunning, like realistically. So like where we are now, I don't know if we would have big marathons like I don't know if we would have the community support an event like NASA.
I don't think we would. I think if you look at across all communities, the largest events have in some way a charity incentive across the board.
Pretty much. Yeah.
I think charity is an incentive universally for large groups of people. Whether you agree with the charity or not, that's a discussion that we probably shouldn't have right now. But
it's like, I don't think anyone's like, PCF is Satan. I don't think anyone's like that. It's like usually the only disagreement is like, I think there would be a better one or a charity I prefer. Disagreement, I don't think is the right word, but yeah, outside of like GDQs and ESA, and then like there's RPG RPG Limit Break, which I sort of associate with GDQs just because it's like basically the same group that's just like, well, we want to do the longer games, I guess. And then sort of ESA was like just sort of the same thing, but it's like, well, we don't want to travel across the entire planet. It's like every marathon is kind of an offshoot of GDQ, which was its own thing, molded off of other stuff. It's a whole weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think even better than charity marathons, one way to fuel growth is just a whole big shit ton of pointless drama like Dragster.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Because
or other miscellaneous drama.
You know,
There's
how
plenty.
many runs are there were on speedrun.com for Dragster before the Dragster thread? You know, getting some bullshit that bolsters interest. If you really want your speed game to thrive, you know, do a big cheated run and announce that 1 month later, and then bam, people will start running it. So
I should try that.
Yeah, I've thought about doing it myself because, I mean, it probably will get more people running it. But yeah, I want to give it. It's like, when did you start the reverse engineering Dragster and all that?
Yeah, how did you even get the idea to look at it?
This was all Dragster happened because of the book. Is more or less how we're going, because I wanted some information on early speedrunning. Like, I wanted to find what could make sense as the earliest speedrun. You go back dozens of years, there's not a whole lot of games that even have a timer or anything else that you'd associate with that. So there's this whole story and myth with Todd Rogers and how he did the second gear thing and showed the devs, and it was awesome and amazing. And it's like, okay, cool. I took that as face value. And it's just like, all right, that's a great story. He went in, he showed the devs something that they had never considered and got a faster time. Awesome, sweet. And as part of that segment of the book that I was writing, I wanted to actually be able to describe it better. So, like, what was the actual trick that he used? And when I started digging around, like looking at the interviews from him, he would say different things, and it wouldn't really match up. So I couldn't really write what he did to achieve this. Like, what was the trick? What was the oversight that he used? And then I went over to TAS videos, and there already was a Dragster thread there, and people for a couple years had been trying to find something faster, and they had 557 times for a while, but they couldn't figure out anything other than that. And I think just reading through, at one point in the thread, there was a post that said, well, as far as I know, this is the limit of what we've got right now. Until somebody reverse engineers this game, I don't think that we're going to have any improvement. And it's just like, well, I could do that. I've got those skills. And then I got myself some Dragster, got the binary, and started plugging away. Unlike a Super Nintendo game.
Have you ever disassembled a game before like that? Or not just disassemble, but like almost reverse engineer like the gameplay?
Well, let me back up a little bit first. My day job is I'm a cybersecurity researcher. So I have some formal training with reverse engineering and that kind of thing. So I've done reverse engineering before. I know how to look at a binary and how to work through things. For games specifically, a lot of times I've relied on tools that are in emulators, and then just kind of putting it together. But luckily, the assembly language architecture that gets used in the Atari is the same on Super Nintendo, which is what I'm most familiar with. So I was very quickly able to get in and kind of learn what it was. But the big thing was I knew how to use the tools to do a full disassembly as opposed to just the simple setup. And that allowed me to get a much better idea much more quickly of how everything interacted and what the possibilities were for traveling from one branch to the other and that kind of thing.
How long did it take you to disassemble it once you like had the ROM and all that stuff or whatever?
I mean, disassembling, it's like instant because the program.
I guess.
But to understand it,
it all, yeah.
It took probably an afternoon or two. The game's
it's an Atari game.
Yeah, like it's an Atari game, so it's like
there's not a whole lot there. It's more of just trying to infer what it's trying to do at different points and work my way through it that way. it wasn't too bad. There were a lot of things that at first I would gloss over because they weren't particularly relevant, and I could just go back to them later after I noticed some better information on them or figured out how they were actually used. But based on what I had available in the code and what I could do in an emulator, I started to put together all the individual things of, well, what is the fastest you could do? And I just started working through and doing that in an emulator, even with like Task Studio and all the rest of the fun stuff that they have in BizHawk and stuff like that. It's really tedious when you're trying to like rewind back. Oh, okay, do I do a shift here? Do I hold the button here, and so on? So instead, I started to just condense the math for how to go into a spreadsheet. And then I used that, checked it against what was going on in the emulator, and used that to basically pre-design what inputs I wanted to use to test in the emulator. And then I had the spreadsheet, and like it was a tool for me to start. And I realized, hey, other people can do this too. So I just dressed it up a little bit, got rid of all the extra bonus notes that I had left around and made it a little prettier, and released it. And that was my initial discussion, my post on Reddit or wherever else I put it about, hey, this is the best that I've found. Maybe you guys can find something better. Go right ahead. Here's this tool. The idea from that was to crowdsource it as well as to kind of fact check my work. Like, hey, can you get a result in Dragster that doesn't match up to the spreadsheet? And
yeah, I remember it's like I followed all the drama and stuff, but the first time I actually saw the spreadsheet, since I wasn't particularly interested in the actual math, just like the fandom of Todd Rogers and stuff like that. First time I actually saw it was on the Ben Heck episode where he confirmed on hardware, yep, this works. And that's like, I was laughing so hard. It was just like, and from the like reading other posts, it's like, you know, Todd Rogers had a history of like people trying to, like with Barnstorming or other games where it's like he had a score that they proved was not possible, and then like fandom is what like prevented actual like corrections from being done about inaccurate scores and stuff like that. So it's like, and this is like a long-term thing. So it's not like you were the first to, question the mighty Todd Rogers, and it's.
I've been accused of a lot of things after putting out that first post. Like I was trying to ride his coattails to bring him down to gain my own fame or something.
Which is funny because it's like other people, like all the other accusations I looked at, like when I looked like previously at games where like he had a cheated score, were like way more serious or like accusatory. They didn't even ask. It's like, well, what did he do? They're just like, no, he did it wrong. This is it's so it's like it's kind of surprising the reaction that it got. I think on TG. Do you have any like what's your reaction to their response? Like,
So
initially and
take
finally,
us through the initial the initial thread nonsense and the criticism to where we are now. The conclusion: you've been validated. You're a hero, the hero of speedrunning.
So
no, that's Apollo Legend who disassembled the game.
Of course.
I've had actually people send me messages thanking me for my videos, specifically linking to Apollo's videos. In any case, after I initially made that task and I made that Reddit post, eventually Tompa actually shared it on TG because Tompa is I don't know if active is the right word, but he participates.
He's still alive.
He participates at TG sometimes.
Him and Zallard are the only ones I know that do. Off the top of my head, at least. So
he shared a link with that, and they had an impossible scores thread, which is a natural place for it to go. When he did that, the thread page count was like 34 or something like that. And he sent me a note saying that he shared it there. And then, like, immediately after it went up, a whole bunch of people started piling on. It's just like, well, I just called up Todd, and he said he did it in front of the developers, so booyah, or something like that. And so I ended up making an account, going through their stupid verification system.
Oh yeah, I wanted to make a verified account too, but you need to phone them on a phone a robot that gives you a code. And
apparently,
give
in the past, you would
info.
call a real person, and they would do it, and it wasn't even a robot. But in any case, I made an account, and I went over there, and my whole purpose in just saying anything at TG was like, hey, okay, you guys are a little bit misunderstanding what I did and what it means. So let me help you out here. Just try to get to a common ground, because I mean, that's just a major pet peeve for me. I hate things falling down just because of misunderstandings. And so I wanted to support my work the best I could. Okay, fine. It goes on for a while. A couple people bring up different points, and some of them like are reasonable points. I'll go and look at it, and it's just like, well, this is what would happen if that were the case, yada, yada. Some technical stuff. And then it starts getting more philosophical. You can't really come up with a technical argument that tries to defeat it's entered into the database, which means that it was adjudicated, which means that somebody at the time said it met the requirements. Yeah. Therefore, it must be factual. And
my favorite post from Jace Hall was where he had like a picture of like a schematic of an Atari and like circled like the crystalline processors.
Yeah. This is where the dragster is. This is the dragster.
It's like, well, there could be some variance here.
Yeah, he tried to pick out the oscillators. So basically the whatever runs the game. It's the sinusoidal activity that keeps the game in lockstep, pretty much. So, okay, that's fine. That would only really matter if the game actually tried to keep sense of real time, as opposed to, well, this is loop 5. I'm going to add 0.0334, and here we go.
Like, even if it was like super cooled, it would not make a difference.
No, it would not.
Because it's like the time being like in game, it's based on like the instructions. Like
right.
There are so many things where it's like I don't know much about coding, but even I was like, this cannot be right what he's asking here.
Well, so just to keep it moving on story time, because there's a whole lot of story time there.
Oh yeah.
That goes back and forth for a while. We settle on some things. I learned some new things about Ataris that basically further say, hey, no, you can't do this. I go back, look at the code a few more times, looking for some extra special things like, hey, does it read inputs multiple times per frame? Does it do any fancy memory tricks on a reset? I don't know. Like a whole bunch of stuff that could potentially get to there, and none of it's valid. Like Dragster, for all that you see, it is actually a very well-coded game. I know of exactly one bug in Dragster, and it doesn't affect your time. And
what does it affect? Don't leave me hanging if you bring that shit up.
Oh my gosh. The only thing that the bug that I know about does is if you press the reset button as opposed to pressing right, which is the normal way that you'd reset, it would just start the race over. Your tachometer, so the bar at the bottom, doesn't get reset. So whatever it was at before, you can keep it something like that. And that's only important because if you're in neutral, which is how you start the race, it goes up by increments of 3. So you can only start the race with an increment of 3. Okay, that's fine. But if you press reset and it's on, say, an offset of 1 or 2, then you can start with a tachometer speed that you can't normally get. Why that doesn't matter? Because if you're a TAS, then you can get the exact same effect simply by letting off gas at certain points in the first gear, and you'll get exactly the same state and get everything fine. If you're a human, what this means is that you would need to have the tachometer not blow out, be somewhere like on a 1 or 2 that you wanted, you'd have to hit reset, and then you'd have to keep the tachometer from going to 0 all the while before the race, and then still start frame perfect and do all the rest of that stuff for no gain. So there you go.
And would that save any, like,
No.
would that save in-game time? Okay.
It would not save any time.
That's good. Solid.
Yeah.
I bet Todd still did it.
It's the human element, man. We keep saying all these hypotheticals, but the fact of the matter is,
Yeah.
it just happened.
But
So
I
what
started to
happened,
get a lot more on guard with the thread in general after talk of, hey, we're going to have an event that Todd's going to go to, and it's going to be great, and he's going to show everybody what he's got, and it'll be for charity and wonderful. And that's the only way that he's agreed to come out and like show people what's going on. And in that same post, Jay started talking about this is a question of credibility, and this is now a question of the annals of TG gaming history versus Tassers. And I'm like, hold on, dude. calm yourself. This is one dude who said, hey, I did some math and the time is impossible. And you're not going to turn this into a whole community versus community thing because you feel like it, unless you have either a trump card or something else, some other agenda item in trying to get extra promotion out of this. And from that point on, I was very cautious about dealing with Jace because I simply could not trust him. And he showed it that he couldn't be trusted throughout a number of the rest of the threads, and including I will say that like the one thing that got me most upset throughout the entire process, it's not like repeating the exact same answers about, hey, this isn't possible. Hey, no, you don't understand. Here's how this really works. Like, that's fine. I can deal with trying to help educate people all day long. What I really dislike is when somebody takes something that I am personally very involved with. And in this case, that is science. Like, I'm a researcher. Setting up good science is my job. That is very important to me. And when you try to put yourself into a position where, okay, I'm going to set it up so that all of this is just how it goes. Like, you haven't met the bar of proof. This is what SpaceX would do. That was an actual assertion at some point. Like that gets me upset because you are trying to take over on something that you either through malice or ignorance you don't understand. And the worst part is that they are the only person that has the ability, the power to do anything about it. So it's kind of this hopeless fight of you need people to understand, but they are either unwilling or not capable of understanding. And because of that, it's going to go nowhere. And that was really frustrating for me throughout. Like if Jace was sincere about trying to learn things or understand the extent of what he did, like I would have been very happy to actually explain what he was misunderstanding. But the sense that I got is that he wanted to be the smartest person in the room always. And whether he had anything, any other agenda aside from that or not, let it run on for months and months. And eventually it turned into the shitstorm that it was.
Yeah, I'm really surprised you managed to stay like classy and like, you know, like polite throughout it all. Because like after day one, I would have just given everyone shit and just been like a big asshole. So you're a better man than me.
I mean, that's another part of my job too, is just when I have to explain technical details to people who that might not be their primary field. Like, you have to be patient with them. Yeah. So I have a lot of practice with that just from doing my regular work.
Yeah. Crap. What was the experiment he suggested with building two computers?
Oh, he wanted 10 different dragster carts on 10 different Ataris. All of them being fed brute force inputs for as long as they needed just to see what would happen eventually.
And like brute force, not without any like guidance of like a program trying to like optimize distance or something like that. Just pure
because
random.
you're going in with the assumption that whatever we've already known about the program is potentially flawed. Yeah. So you can't trust any of the analysis that's been done.
If you put enough monkeys in a room, eventually one of them will get a 557 in Dragster. That's just fact.
That's basically, he was saying that's the experiment we should do, which is like, it's surprising.
He basically wanted to do, he literally just wanted to freaking pretend he was cracking Wi-Fi to like.
Oh, this would have been way harder than
get
Wi-Fi.
The time. Well, yeah, obviously. It would have taken a lot longer. But, like, still, like, that doesn't, like, what does that have to do with anything? That just seems like the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Like,
well, it's like he's not a researcher scientist, so it's like.
Well, I guess in theory, if you sat there, like,
long
enough,
like,
you could be like, well, I mean, it's still going. It could still come out with a 5.
Yeah, it's like
his entire point was that, hey, if you're going to prove something, you should prove that it is impossible under every conceivable circumstance.
Yeah, beyond an unreasonable
doubt. If you put an Atari and a TV in a box, there's no telling what's in that box. It could be an amazing Dragster time.
Or if you read his post, it could also be a Christmas tree.
Could be a Christmas tree. I didn't anticipate that.
So yeah, it's a post from Jace, Hector, and Rudy. That's like, just like the previous thread. It wasn't Dragster thread, but the thread about when Mike Gerard was caught cheating in Punch-Out. It was a lot shorter and condensed. All the good posts were just right there. This one in the Dragster has a lot of fluff. I want someone to just take all the good posts from Jace, Hector, and Rudy, and just have a PDF of those.
I need a dramatic reading.
Oh,
that's what I need.
You should do the dramatic reading.
Okay.
I mean, that would be slightly more feasible if most of Jace's posts weren't like 9 paragraphs of
just like
hire
John St.
That
John.
Makes it better.
John St. John will read stuff into you in the Duke voice for like a certain amount. Just hire him, read the whole thing as Duke.
Mm-hmm.
That's very true.
So no, it's like when someone's like, when they're proven it's like they were caught cheating, it's like, I think the only way to really regain your credibility, first thing from there is just admit it's like, yeah, I cheated, I made a mistake, I'm going to try and like, better myself, do better. And Todd's response was just like, nope, nothing wrong here, I deny everything. And it's like, oh man.
How did we get from there, from like, omnigamer is the tasking community trying to attack us, to Twin Galaxies saying, we'd like to extend an appreciation of omnigamer's hard work in cracking this case.
That was just whatever they could do to try and deflect flack. Because in the end, they know that it was entirely Jace's call on whether or not to give or not.
So for people who are ignorant of that, by the way, of the end, like me, because I saw the whole beginning part that you just talked about, but I never saw the resolution.
So the condensed version of the resolution is it gets to the end of January, like January 25th or something. Apollo Legend puts out this video about just Todd's other completely unbelievable scores. That gets a lot of traction. All of a sudden, I have people calling me from like Washington Post and ESPN and stuff like that. Several of which thought I was Apollo Legend. And then, like, they just got buried under a lot of negative sentiment, and eventually they just gave in. They did it under the guise of, hey, we have finally received this extra information from one of our former refs, and that was the nail in the coffin, so to speak.
And that to me is like the most annoying part. It's like this problem with like an old boy that we're keep protecting. It's like, oh well, another old boy is now jumping in the ring to say it's not true, or it's like it's suspicious, and that was like they act like that was the tipping point beyond
what RTM had to say too was something that was generally known, and like it had been brought up in other threads. The condensed version was just like in the past, refs had unfettered access to the database, and when they were also competitors, there was no telling what they were going to put in, and whether or not like they self-verified or they put in anything else. And just some of the timelines of when they put in is what he matched up to be the claim against Todd entering a lot of these scores. But in any case, so TG made the decision. They removed Dragster time. They removed all of Todd's scores and banned him from participation. And like,
oh no, you can't be on Twin Galaxies.
Yeah, heaven forbid. Not to mention that it had been on there for some 8 months, and Todd hadn't posted a single time in the Dragster thread. He posted in skiing, but not in Dragster.
I saw that.
That was the one. That was the one he wanted to
aware.
keep, though.
Which is that's another like weird thing. It's like there was like 6 other games like being actively adjudicated or whatever, or not like submission review, like when they question a score, and like half of them where it's like, yeah, this is mathematically not possible, and all like the same people who during Dragster were like, no, it's like we support him. Like some of them would be like, well, oh yeah, it's like okay, in the Carrot or the Rabbit game, Wabbit or whatever, it's like the score maxes out at 1300. Can't get
there's
anything
all sorts
higher.
of things wrong with Wabbit.
Or and that the score must end in like a 0 or a 5, and he had like
A 98.
1798.
No, it was 1698.
1698.
So he both went past the kill screen and got a non-5.
And I think like on the very first page, I think Rudy's like, all right, let's just round it down.
Yep.
1698. Let's just say it's like an error in transposition. He only got the first digit right of 1. And then it's like, oh, instead of 6, he hit 3. Instead of 9, instead of 0, he hit 9. Instead of 0, he hit 8 or some shit. And it's like, there are people like, yes, this is what we should do. There's people agreeing with that's reasonable. And it's like there's other
it's just a different different culture over there.
Different galaxy, if you will.
Yeah.
They it seems like a lot of it's changing, but still it's not something that I really care to be a part of.
I was going to say, does it even matter if it changes? Like, let's be honest, Twin Galaxies has been irrelevant for literally since the moment I ever heard of them.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. For people, if you're a speedrunner, Twin Galaxies does not matter for speedrunning, but it's like for like generic like Guinness records or like random like news people, if they just like look for a video game record, that's one of the sites they're going to find. So it's like it matters to people who aren't.
Guinness is what gets a lot of namesake for people.
And so it's like, yeah, it's influential for people who aren't like in on the hobby. Like,
and like people could watch King of Kong and they go, "Oh, Twin Galaxies," and it'll just look up Twin Galaxies after watching the movie.
Oh yeah, I actually like that movie because it's like they try to have Billy Mitchell as like a villain, but they just make him look like a badass.
Hey guys, there's a kill screen coming up. Hey
cool.
guys, kill screen. Hey.
And then like Billy Mitchell's score is also removed, and that's like another big thing. So it's like, what's your like sitting back and just looking back, like what's your retrospective over all the Dragster bullshit?
I'm glad I don't have to worry about it anymore.
That's fair.
Like it was a wild ride while it lasted, and it lasted way longer than it should have. But it's done with. At some level, justice has been dealt. Oh no! See, now that you've shown that, you have to play it.
I know.
If I had it, I'd play it.
Get that first 551 on stream.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it, everyone. You heard it here, right now.
Has it affected the history chapter of your book at all, Omni? Because like you said, you were looking at it to see what the first speedrun is.
Well, it isn't a speedrun, so it's
exactly. So what's the second oldest speedrun?
That particular thing, I still have it in the book. I only altered a few words, basically, to keep the context correct, because it's more of the mythos that surrounds it. Like, everybody knew that at some level, like, people used it as something to inspire them. So there's entire generations of gamers that, like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna be the next Todd Rogers, and look back at his legendary scores and stuff like that. So it's still a significant story. It's just built on the House of Lies. So
I really hope
it's
that
getting the right context.
I want the test your Dragster bias link. I like
Oh, my
Jason's
gosh.
picture thing. Because people were all the memes was like the human element, but it's like, no, test your dragster bias. That's even better.
I don't even know
I
about
want
that
to
one.
be. Yeah, he posted a picture in like December of like a picture of a 554, and it's like, oh, do you believe this is real or like performed on real hardware? It's like this, like your initial like reaction would like inform you of your bias. So it's like test your dragster bias, and everyone was like, this means nothing
Yep.
at all. It's not a video of a. It's like it doesn't. This isn't an answer. It was.
I will say that one thing that I'm disappointed with as far as the resolution is that Todd himself is not fessed up to anything. And in fact, he doubled down on it with his post on Facebook and whatever else.
Yeah.
And I mean, if he still wants to be living in that dream, that's fine. But from the perspective of actually figuring out what happened some 35 years ago, he's the only one that actually knows. And if he's going to hold on to the lies that he built up as part of that, like nobody else is going to know what actually happened back then. Like nobody knows what he sent in to Activision to get them to list the 551. Nobody knows like his interactions with Activision staff. Like a couple of the conversations that he's claimed to have with them don't match up to the timelines as well as what other people from that time have said. So nobody actually knows the story of way back then, except for him. And until he actually fesses up, nobody is going to know.
Has anyone at some point talked to anyone that worked at Activision?
Actually, yeah. Shortly before Twin Galaxies released their decision, there was like a
dragster.
One of the
dev.
Yeah, one of like the devs was like, "I believe in Todd."
The actual programmer. So it had exactly one programmer, David Crane. They reached out to him again. And I say again because I reached out to him in June of 2017 just to ask him questions and kind of probe him for ideas on what other things could happen. And the content of those exchanges is basically the exact same thing that he gave to Kotaku when they ran an article about it in June, July, whenever that was. And again, repeated for what they told Twin Galaxies in January. So he's sticking to the same script. There's no new information there that hasn't been there for 6 months when they started quoting him in their front page posts or whatever it was.
Yeah, my takeaway is like someone's reputation or fandom is not evidence of like any achievement they may or may not have done. So it's like if you were to like go question on like a Hotarubi who's like a old boy speedrunner, it's like if you were to go question his runs, that doesn't mean you're trying to like bring down a legend. You're just like, I think like trying to verify stuff is true is a good thing. It's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not antagonizing in and of itself.
That's right. That's part of science is you have to get kind of independent analysis.
Yeah.
Somebody who's not really a part of it, but can understand everything that's going on and reproduce it, or at the very least, make sure that the conditions were right to reproduce it.
I don't know if this actually, it's like, it doesn't really, this is purely TG. It doesn't really have an effect on SRL, SDA or whatever. But I don't know, it's like SDA itself, recently, the recent years, it was just purely like, it was like a forum for GDQ talk mostly. It's not really used as frequently. Even though it's like, I still will try and force the knowledge base because that's the one thing it has that other sites don't really have at the moment. Mm-hmm. Is a genuine knowledge base, and it's like, fucking fill that shit out. I think it's like, I don't know if you want to think about the future of sites, like TG was not thinking about the future of anything. They weren't thinking at all.
Reminder that there's a Dark Souls knowledge base called speedsouls.com.
Good on you. You should literally go to SD knowledge base and link that in there. I want more people to fucking write shit down and put it in that just because it's, I don't know, it's like,
I talk about this a lot in my book too, in terms of the need to have information archived, recorded somewhere so that people can actually go in and find out, how did you make the decisions that you used in your run? Like, what was the research that you used? What information glitches, etc., did you actually know? And how did you come to these conclusions? Like, there's a lot of really important stuff there. And in the old days, you just put it on the forum because that's where everybody was.
Yeah.
And now we've got people in Discord groups. We've got people in just posting random stuff on Reddit that'll scroll off the first page in a day or two and nobody will ever see it again. And it's just kind of this impermanence of information sharing. And not only that, it's a lot harder to get to it because you can't just go to SDA and look at, hey, look, I'm going to find the Contra 3 thread or whatever it is and just kind of look through that. And I mean, part of it is people are sharing in ways that are more convenient for them. Great, that's fine. It's just that from the perspective of anybody new coming down the line, they don't have the same things to look for. Or if they don't have the knowledge of your special Dark Souls Discord or know how to find it, like nothing.
Or if someone ran a game 8 years ago and they forget everything about it.
Yeah, and that's something that I think people really need to remember and focus on going forward, because there's going to be a lot of circumstances. Like I remember when Dram was doing Joe and Mac 2. He was trying to compete against one of Cypher's times. And this is a time that Cypher did on an alternate streaming account that didn't have the highlights saved, that got lost to the ether. And then this is years after the fact, and Dram's trying to ask him questions, and it's just like, hey, what did you do here? And it's just like, I have no idea anymore. I don't remember whatsoever. So there's this time that ostensibly is the world record for this game, and just missing knowledge. Like, there's not even a video to reference that. And that's not even trying to say that, oh, there's no video, it can't be legit. It has nothing to do with whether or not somebody tried to cheat on that or anything. It's all about you don't have the knowledge that went into that anymore. And whether it can be improved or not, you either have to figure it out all anew, or you're just kind of stuck behind the times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you had
definitely.
I remember you had a thread on SDA for like, what is the future of SDA? And I really think it is like, it's the only site that's attempt to have like a general knowledge base, because speedrun.com can have like some specific guides, which not many people utilize. It's mainly just a leaderboard site for the most part, which like that still is an important function. And on that function alone, it could last like a long time. But for SDA, like even, GDQ staff, if talking about GDQ stuff with like, just generic stuff, they'll like, Coleman would be on Reddit, not SDA forums. So it's like, it's not even its ties to GDQ. It doesn't really, it's just very little, it has barely any function, but it does have the knowledge base, and I want people to use it.
So from my perspective, the biggest things that have kept SDA from kind of maintaining its position is simply that the people who are currently administering it, they've more or less moved on in a lot of cases. So they keep it up because they know that it's important to a lot of people, but they don't have a vested interest in trying to push the site forward. And that's unfortunate, but I mean, they've got their own lives to live too. But as part of its downswing, there are two roles that I think are significant that SDA serves to the overall community. And one is that keeper of knowledge. So whether it's on the forums or the knowledge base or whatever else, like having some place where you can go to keep a reference for your game, no matter how obscure it is or like the most run game ever, just having somewhere for that information is very valuable going forward. And the second is something that I don't think a lot of people realize is a really valuable thing to have. And this is what I call the mark of quality. When you go to speedrun.com, you can find a leaderboard for whatever games or anything else, and you look at the top time and you say, okay, that must be a good run because it is the fastest time. There's no actual connection between being first on a leaderboard and having a good time in a game. And what I mean by that is there's no way for you to say, hey, is that time well researched? Did he put more than 5 attempts in it? Is there a good route to go along with it? How long has this been worked on? Anything like that. And the way that SDA had structured the submissions, especially post 2010 or so, if you submit a game to SDA, it's not just that it has to be a speed run and have just the video quality and all the rest of that stuff. It actually has to be good from just a plain viewer perspective. Like, you can't have a whole lot of mistakes. You can't do anything on that. It has to make it through so that people can actually sign off and say, hey, yeah, it looks like they actually put in a lot of effort in this speed run. It seems worthy to go on the site. And that is something that I guess just isn't a part of the common culture anymore. Like the runs that are all the way at the top, or if you have a lot of people to compete against, yeah, they're naturally going to get better and so on. But if you go and find a game that has exactly one person who's run it, you have no idea if that person did their 5 attempts or they spent like many months trying to polish off this game or anything like that. And long term, I think there's going to be some solutions for that, some ways to actually be able to tell. Right now, I don't see a solution to that space. And it's something that is missing now that SDA doesn't really have that place in the community.
I think one thing of real value we lost was anytime a game would get published, the runner would often supply a write-up. Like whenever I used to run, when I put games on SDA, I would always, if you read what I wrote, you would know how to do what I did. And I think that's really missing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think it's interesting because for me, like my community in the speed running community is the Dark Souls community,
mm-hmm.
right? Like that's the community that I'm most attached to. I'm an admin for the Discord server and like all of that, right? So we're really organized for that. It's a big community, you know, it's a really pretty large community for all the Souls games. So we've got a really great knowledge base. Everyone has made sure that you've got access to everything you need to know about doing any trick in any game at any time. The thing is that when I look around at the rest of the speedrunning communities, you know, people don't organize themselves like that. And I wonder if it's because the communities themselves are so small that a lot of people don't communicate very much. And if they do communicate, they're communicating in ways that are just, you know, oh, hey, how did you do this thing? Or someone's going to someone's stream, or someone's talking in a little Discord server that no one's ever going to see again, like you said. And I just wonder why, like, there's no
consolidated place.
Well, yeah.
And like Pixel talked about this last episode too. If you guys want to listen to that and hear his thoughts, he said like there is communities, obviously, but they're all in their own Discords. And actually, I think a while back, Golden tried to make like a consolidated list of speedrunning Discords that's out in the ether somewhere. I have no idea where you would find it, but that's it. There's no real, I don't know if maybe like speedrun.com has like an individual game might have their individual Discord or whatever posted. Like none of my games have Discords. I have one Discord. I have the PlayStation Nation Discord, and that's all of the games. Neglaria's in there. All of the games that are ran in there
you should shoot me an invite.
Mono runners, basically. They're too small to have their own community.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like, I just pulled up the Speed Souls Discord, right? There are 1,866 members.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not a normal speedrunning Discord.
Yeah, I don't think it has to do with, like, it's not necessarily, like, the size of the community. It's just that, like, the desire to speedrun is not necessarily identical as, like, the desire to, like, write about a speedrun.
Yeah. I'll be right back. Sorry, just a moment.
Hey, no problem.
Sure.
All right, go for it. So it's, like,
I mean,
not everyone wants to write shit down. And, like, just when a community gets larger, it's the better chance that someone who does like writing shit down will be in it.
Right. I mean, when I first started getting into the Souls community, like, the Speed Souls didn't exist. We didn't have Discord. Like, none of the shit existed at all.
I guess, yeah,
you know?
For the next show, I think I want to get a list of every game that does have its own, like, wiki of all the tricks or shit like that. Because I know Donkey Kong Country 2, or just the Donkey Kong games in general do. Yeah. Like, Donkey Kong speedruns or whatever. Dark Souls, F-Zero kind of, like has a handful of tutorial stuff. Zelda games do.
Grand Theft Auto series has tutorial stuff.
Yeah, a list of, like, every game or an individual game or a series that has like, just like an information base.
Right.
I think that'd be a cool list. Just
We
to
need
see
an
what
information
communities-
base of information
Yeah.
bases.
Use the knowledge
Well, that's
base,
the thing.
motherfuckers. I'm talking to you.
When this whole thing started, I mean, Speed Souls, when it started, it was just someone was like, hey, like, why don't we make a leaderboard website because this was before speedrun.com even. Why don't we make a leaderboard website and we can have, pages where you guys can write up stuff. So they made a wiki, right? And like, I just feel like speedrun.com has the ability to support all of that. It has a guide section. It has a forum section, like where you can talk and stuff. Like it can support all of this stuff. Just no one uses it for that for some reason. And I haven't really been able to figure out why no one uses it
People
for that.
use
like
it for leaderboards as a leaderboard database.
yeah.
That's pretty much it.
It's the point of convenience. It's the same reason that people just don't rely on forums anymore either. Just because
sure.
you can use it there, or you can also do it in this app that you all can also have on your phone, and it gets pinged every time there's a new response, and you can just chill with your buddies. So it's a very
direct communication,
and it gets treated for information sharing more than anything too.
I know what really drives the existence from my personal experience. I know what really drives the existence personally of Speed Souls and the wikis and the tutorials and everything. It's people got tired of answering the same questions over and over again. It's a popular enough series, and I think that's the differentiator. It's a popular enough series that people got tired of just having to answer the same question. Oh, how did you do this skip? Or how did you do this glitch? Like, people didn't want to have to tell people how to move swap in Dark Souls 1 because it is the most used thing in that game, and, like, it's just annoying to explain it every 5 seconds. That's why it exists, in my opinion, is because the community started to grow, and the people who were already there were like, well, I don't want to have to do this every 5 seconds.
Addendum. Don't just use knowledge space. Bitch at speedrunners. ask them stupid questions.
Yep.
And, I mean, I guess that is true, because it's like, with F-Zero or any game I run, it's like a new viewer every, 3 days. It's like, oh, how'd you do that? I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll talk about whatever. But if it's like someone asking every 5 seconds about some basic stuff, then it's like, I'll just make something and link it in chat. It's
right.
It makes sense.
It does, and I mean, you've got like when I think the original Skype group we had was like 40 people. We're at 1,800 Discord members at this point, right? Like that's what I think makes a big difference. Having to actually have the desire for one reason or another, like some people are motivated to do it because they like it. In this instance, I think a lot of the motivation came down to annoyance. Seriously.
So I talked about this before on another show, but
Alt Insiders.
I think it was one of his...
Am I in the same pace?
Yeah, with one of the debates with R. White Goose and Bubbles. But this was after I made a poll asking about what the problems in speedrunning were, and it was it was completely wide open, just like, well, what do you think the problems, and what do you think is the biggest problem? And there was some active discussion on that for a while on the Twitters. But one of the main points that came out from that was simply this view of leadership, and whether people thought that they needed leadership or not. And one of the main points that I wanted to make out of that is simply that leadership is not just you are king speedrun. You declare how everything is going to be run and falls out. Leadership goes to a lot more to that. It's you are active enough that you, say, delegate to people as far as, hey, you've got a good Discord. I'm going to use you as our primary server for discussing this game, and I'm going to promote it out here, supporting new members, basically making sure that the resources are there where they need, and that you have the appropriate outreach. Like, all of those are leadership duties too. And I mean, I guess in this case, the leader is also the one who broke first in terms of annoyance and started to actually put things out there. But leadership, I think, is something that's really important, that a lot of people don't see as that. And until you have somebody who's kind of driving the ship, as far as, hey, if we want our game to get noticed, if we want to support new people coming into it, we really got to put something out there for that. And I think people are starting to realize that. They're
a lot of runners are just kind of like lazy as shit, or it's like, because like NASA, like it could be an example of like a lot of people. It's like I want to go to an event, but it's like GDQs. It's like there's over 1,000 people. It's crowded. There's like whatever reason they have, they want to go to a different one, but no one wanted to make it. So I'll just like shit. I'll just book a hotel, see who shows up, and then people are like, all right, good. Like once the ball rolls, everyone will start pushing it with you. But no one wants to like build it in the first place.
The first step's always the hardest.
It's very true. I mean,
and it's not even necessarily hard. It's just like
you made that post and like all of a sudden you had staff. Like it was literally, it really is just someone has to take the initiative.
Yeah, because it's
for
like
these things,
and you don't even need to do that much work or that much like mental stress. It's just get a ball rolling and people.
You don't, Naglaria.
Oh yeah, because it's like I guess in my case, I just want to go to an S as an attendee. I don't really. I just want to hang out with people, so I don't really.
Which is fair. You're you're our shining example of what speedrunning truly means. Naglaria. That's. But I mean, I think that with the knowledge based stuff in general. I don't know if speedrun or SDA knowledge base is going to be the answer. Like promoting that over and over again. Like
it doesn't necessarily have to be SDAs, but there needs I really want information and access.
I would say access to information. That the SDA knowledge base exists right now.
It already exists.
Yeah,
until there's something else.
Speedrun.com's individual guides on the
leaderboards. Yeah, but that's not like that's not like centralized, and it's also purely game specific. It doesn't have information that's like more
how to stream, how to record, how to do this.
So it's like it's the only thing that does it. For a lot of the stuff it has, it might be outdated, but it's still like it does it well.
So do you think that if someone were to go out today and make a generalized speedrunning wiki that you can have pages for individual games?
Well, there is a speedrun wiki, but that's like.
You don't want to go to that speed.
There's a couple, actually.
Yeah. One that's actually
basically people only go there. People only use it to read about Cowan Hames.
Yeah, I was going to say you only go there for Cowan Hames.
Right.
So it's like I guess there's also dangers in making new shit, but So it's like.
But what I'm getting is if someone went out today and did something like literally made a Speed Souls quality website, that was easy to navigate. Fuck you, Bubbles. It was easy to navigate, right? And you could figure out everything you need to figure out, but it was for everything. You had information about console mods, information about streaming, information about individual games. Do you think that the communities would put the effort in to actually fill in that
I think
wiki?
It depends.
Because that's
I don't think it's based on
wiki.
I think
it's based on
Speedrun needs to make the wiki.
Right.
If King Speedrun
I don't think
makes
it's based
it,
on communities. It's based on for a site like that. It's going to be based on people that just like to write shit down. People that like to write about speedrunnings, and that's not necessarily the same as people who like to speedrun. So you need to find the people who are motivated to they just like writing about their speedruns. So the first step would be getting all the current tutorials or whatever people have made up there, and then encourage others to do the same. And basically it's if a site like that was made, I'd support it, but currently we already have one. That's the knowledge base. It's not really used much. If someone makes a new one, sure, I'll support it. I'll fucking force that as well. I'll get people to.
Like I said, if you search the word speedrun, last episode, if you search the word speedrun, SDA is far from the first thing that comes up. It's like the 20th.
Yeah, that too.
Is Speed Souls before it? I think
it isn't.
I noticed that.
No. My favorite one was
pages.
that the TV tropes page for speedrunning came up before.
Yeah, that's actually pretty.
IMDb has someone made put HDQ 2014 on it and added all the runners. Commentators.
I have a couple IMDb credits now.
So it's
in addition to my actual credits, but
I don't understand who went through the work to do that. But the people who are motivated to do weird shit like that, those are the ones you want when you're making an information database. The people will get any information and write about it. even if it's fucking dumb as shit.
Yeah. But I mean, in general, I feel like it's not an issue of availability of, like, you know, places to actually do this. Speedrunner.com has the info, the knowledge base exists, there's wikis that exist. It's a lack of motivation on the side of these individual communities. You know, like, I'm not about to make a fucking wiki for Bernstein Bears. Like, I don't give a fuck about that game.
I guess if you were to like use your idea about it's like being annoying, so you could just literally make a bot that like re-asks question people in chat of like, how does this trick be done? What is world record?
Right.
How do you, like, you know, screen wrap in this game? Oh, it would get banned instantly, so there's no point in doing that specifically. But just in general, it's like, I guess, not just forcing the knowledge base, but just keep asking the same questions until they just write it down. I guess that could be another motivator.
Well, yeah, because I do remember that there was before we had the wiki, it was all paste bins. Like, all our routes were paste bins. And so you would have, like, 3 or 4 people would get together and figure out the most optimal route, right? And then they would post a paste bin, and everyone would look at it and test it out and make sure it was good, and then everyone would run it. And that was the process before we had the wiki. And so I'm kind of more curious to know how many paste bins are floating around for games that
take the Jace Hall approach. We'll just manually load up every single paste bin. And it's like, oh, is this about speedrunning? No? All right, let's go to the next.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure that there's an absurd amount of actual knowledge that was already written down by someone that just, like, has disappeared from circulation. And like, that was what was happening, and that's another reason why the wiki came up, is because we had all these paste bins floating around and we wanted to try and keep track of it.
So,
you know,
I'll say that it's the paste bin dilemma is still another indication, at least to me, of the same thing, which is people do things for convenience. You put it in a paste bin because you don't have to format anything. You literally just directly copy from Notepad or whatever the heck you use to write it, and done. Okay, share. And you don't have to worry about trying to get up a wiki page looking clean. You don't have to do anything else, which would be great. But again, just how it goes.
I guess in theory you could also, for the knowledge base, just add every paste bin about a game. I mean, it's a start. Start the ball rolling.
It's true. I mean, I definitely think this is an issue that doesn't have any kind of legitimate answer, because, you know, all of us are from different communities when it comes to speedrunning, and there's no way that, like, I mean, I guess you could really say you have to actually talk to the people in your community. Like, if you're watching the podcast or you're part of the podcast, like, and you think that this is something that's important for speedrunning knowledge in general, like, talk to the people that are in your community and be like, hey, guys, you should, like, use the SDA knowledge base, or you should use this, or someone should make something that everyone can use that's easier to use than those things.
Or I guess even more specifically, for games that don't really have a community, for what it is just one runner, just ask them to write shit down.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like, just be like, hey, can you just, like, write up a quick, like, rundown of how you do your run?
There's just too many games. There's too many speed runs.
Like, fuck you, caveman. That is such a defeatist attitude.
See, here's the thing. Like, you can't just make a wiki for every single game.
I'm not saying you should. I'm saying the runner should make, like, write down the shit that they do know. I'm not asking them to go. I'm not even asking them to go, like, research a new speed run. I'm just saying the stuff you do know, write that shit down.
Yeah. But then we get right back to they write it down in a paste bin and it disappears, because you have to have the centralized, like, database.
What if there was a website, right? Now follow me on this one. And it had forums. And within the forums, you could have a thread for each game. And let's ignore the fact that you have to determine if it's in casual games or new games or old games or PC games or the Quake-specific thread. Let's just ignore that doesn't happen.
Ooh, Quake.
What if that existed? What would happen then?
Well, no one would use it because no one uses forums.
People would need to force it really hard, like I do.
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember the last time I posted on an actual forum.
Oh, like, shit, genuinely. There we go then.
Like, so, like, I don't post on forums. I post in Discord, on Twitter, and I occasionally, and by occasionally I mean literally never, edit things on the wiki. I literally don't even touch our wiki because...
How does it feel to be part of the problem?
Yeah, you're the reason why. Like, damn.
But the thing is that forums are a dying thing in general. Like, people don't really use forums anymore.
Well,
like,
the knowledge base, specifically the knowledge base is not a forum, okay?
Yeah.
SDA has a forum that's separate from
the
it.
knowledge base isn't a forum, but Caveman was bringing up the idea
Yeah,
of
I think
this
that's
forum,
a pretty reasonable
SDA
solution to the fact that
Motherfucker,
there's
you
a
know he
million
was talking about the
speedruns.
knowledge base.
Right. So, like, I don't know. I mean, like, you say it's a reasonable solution, but, like, people are stupid and stubborn.
Yeah, the problem
Everyone
isn't,
loves
the problem
Discord.
isn't a
You're
site.
not going to get people to have those
I'll get him to
conversations
do it. As
in a
King
less convenient
Speedrun,
medium.
I'll get
I'm
him
not
to do
saying
it.
the problem.
okay.
I'm not saying
All
the
right.
problem is that there's the right site hasn't been made yet. The problem is
Yeah.
like we're like speedrunners are lazy as shit and don't write shit down. And we need to. Only you can solve this by asking people to write shit down.
I have an entire chapter in my book called Documenteering.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Good on you.
I always like to compare speedrunning to fighting games, and I have to accept that SDA is not sureyoucan.com. It never was, and it never will be. It's just it isn't.
No.
It's functionally a dead site with no one working on it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess the question is I would be really interested to see what the back end numbers look like for Sure You Can even.
It's kind of dying too, because
Discord.
yeah, I guess that's Discord. So every game has a Discord now too, but
That's what I'm
immediately they
saying.
move to every game has its own forum.
Right.
Even though there was
So,
there was a wiki, a knowledge base, if you will, on
Yeah.
sureyoucan.com for every game.
Right.
Mimic just reminded me though. Fucking speedrun breakdown. We need to get Trihex
Yeah.
to finish.
No,
it.
and that's the thing. I feel like we're going backwards. Like,
Yeah.
people made these knowledge bases and things like that, and the communities are splintering further because of Discord. Like, because Discord is so much more convenient. It's on
Well,
your phone,
I don't-
like OmniGamer said.
I don't think that's
you
a
know.
matter of, I think that's just like a matter of like the size of the communities. As more and more people come in, it'll just get more like specialized. It'll get like the focus will get smaller.
Well,
like
you need to compartmentalize it in like this is the PlayStation Discord, but it's not the Resident Evil Discord. That's a different Discord kind of thing.
Yeah.
And anyway,
I mean, yeah.
there's too many games, there's too many runners, as clearly shown by the fact that SUDQ registration was completely filled up within 15 minutes of it opening. Let's talk about
wave one.
Wave one.
Phase one.
Whatever that
Oh, boy.
means.
Well, there's another
Yeah.
1250 slots. So in a week.
Oh, right, because the
it's
hotel's
gonna
like a
open up
20-floor hotel.
Yeah, it's going to open up at 10 a.m. Eastern time, like next week sometime. I don't remember the exact date, and that's when the rest of the slots will be available. So
I think the issue with that is like the jump from a hotel to a proper convention is a big one, and they probably could get enough people to like afford that, but it's like they're used to this. They got a good thing going. It's
Clearly, this is like a problem, though. There's not 1,024 runners signing up.
It is.
That's true.
I guess,
And
yeah.
I mean, I guess one of the things that I could bring up with that is that, like, it's not like you have to go to a full-blown convention center. It's not like you have to be, like, in an actual, like,
I think it was just like
convention center for that.
you can
But
only sign up if you have a speedrun.com account or some shit.
maybe, but
You need to have a world record.
I don't see
you
what's
don't
wrong with that.
need-
I've got some. I'm in the green.
You don't need a full-blown convention center for something like that. You know, MagFest still happens at the Gaylord. And they've grown insanely.
well, whether or
Like-
not they should still be at the Gaylord is another
That's
question.
true. That's a different question, but their numbers of attendees are so much more drastically higher than AGDQ. AGDQ, why aren't they looking at some place like that? Not to say that they aren't. For all I know, AGDQ could very well be looking at a place like that, and they probably should be. But you've got a hotel with a massive amount of space in it with a crap ton of hotels around it.
I think
within
they're
like
just
a 5
they're
minute
just trying to
walk.
get their toes
right?
wet. Like this SGDQ, in all likelihood,
think
is
so.
going to be the highest attended Games Done Quick of all time. There's
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, I guess with NASA specifically, it's like, I'm not making money from this. If an event goes to shit, it's like, all right, that's just one shitty week. But it's like, if it's literally their livelihood, they have a little more to worry about.
and it does
Well,
have
it's
the
true.
charity aspect. The more people who are there, the
Yeah.
more things can go wrong. That's something they're probably. I don't know because I'm not them.
So it's
but-
like they,
Well, yeah.
they have more things to worry about than most. But it's
For-
like,
I will say
Yeah, I mean,
that
it's
so we are without saying too much, like the GDQ staff is very much aware of our size. Like that is
Right.
one of the things that we do actively discuss, and we try and figure out like what we want to do and what we can support and all the rest of that stuff. There are a lot of other issues kind of with the size that we are that isn't also like 5 times our size. And that goes with just simply how hotels work. Because hotels generally have ballrooms that are pretty comparable. One hotel will be approximately the same size as the other one. And that's mainly what we've been trying to work with. The problem is that those ballrooms and so on typically rated like for events in the up to 1,000 people. When you start getting up to 2,000, you limit a lot of things. And when you get above that mark, I mean, you might even get to, there's just nothing that can support that without all of a sudden being a full-blown convention center or a convention hotel. And we all know how SGDQ 14 went.
yeah.
So there are concerns with trying to grow faster than we can reasonably support. And that's from a staff side as well.
that's definitely it. You know, I mean, that's definitely completely reasonable. We definitely run into that even at our scale. You know, where we talk about having we've had talks about having panels, having tournaments, having all kinds of stuff, right? And it always comes back to, is this going to stretch us too far? Are we going to have the resources, with no budget? Because we really don't have a budget.
Well, yeah, we're
going
like
to have the resources with no budget.
Like Mike's Abodi Gaming Festival, where it's like it was just it was from equipment that people already had. They brought it there,
Right.
And
Like
that's-
NASA One, yeah.
Yeah, and that's like depending on the size, that's perfectly viable.
Yeah, and I mean, like it's definitely completely understandable to not want to scale too fast, because I think that's definitely a smart choice, But I think that it's at the point where you're like, GDQ is on the line where you could go to a place like the Gaylord and you could probably successfully fill the air, enough event space to not, overdo it. But is that really going to accomplish anything for you? Is really, I think, the main question for GDQ. One thing that I was thinking about with the growth, right? That I've been thinking about, because we've been talking about this a lot in our, staff meetings. Is it really doing anything for the purpose of the event to grow into a full-blown convention? Because you're a charity event, your goal is to raise money.
Given that context,
what really
though,
are you getting?
I'm like, I don't like, because it's like I don't really. Whenever I talk about GDQs, I'm really just like, oh, here's like a dumb picture someone tweeted, and I'll just make like shitty jokes about that, because it's like in regards to like any change that like should or shouldn't happen, it's like that's GDQ staff's choice. Like what I could have ideas for like things that I think would be better, like an event that I would want, but it's like it's theirs. So I don't really, as far as change that should or shouldn't happen, I don't really. That's up to them. I don't really give a shit.
As someone that's actually, what's interesting, as someone who's known you since like before we did NASA, right? Like you used to be very critical of GDQ, and I don't really see you shit posting about them.
Well, I still am. I still am. It's just gotten like it wasn't for like, it was more for just like a joke. Because I would point out stuff that absolutely is not a problem and pretend it was.
Yeah. Well, right, obviously. But you did definitely point out things that were issues.
But I mean, like usually only like pedantic shit, like if a game was stretched 2 pixels, and I would just like shit post, because most of that's like not even really critique. It's just a dumb joke.
I guess my question is, as time has gone on and we've done all of this with NASA, have you found yourself being like more willing to be understanding of the decisions that are made, from an outside perspective of other marathons like GDQ?
I've never I understand it's like they could have problems like you don't know about. So whatever like solutions they may or not be doing, it's like this is their choice. I can still make shitty jokes, but it's like that doesn't mean I'm not. It doesn't mean I'm not like belittling whatever problems they do or don't have.
Right. So omnigamer, have you watched any NASA events? I'm curious, because I'm talking about like his viewpoint of GDQ and what they do. So I'm curious to hear someone who's more involved in GDQ than anyone else that we have on the podcast, really. What do you think of, like, as an outsider from our events, what do you think, having worked on GDQ, of like that? Like, because we don't really talk to other events very often, or people that work with other events that often. And I feel like that's one issue that events have, and we talked about this in our marathon episode, is events don't communicate and they don't talk about tech. They don't talk about, well, when we get hotels, we have these issues, so you guys should watch out for that. They don't talk about, we're looking at doing these weeks. You guys might want to do these weeks. Like, no one really communicates. And, we even have...
Strictly speaking, no one communicates with us. Like RPG and Limit Break and GDQs, they might say what dates they have. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know how much communication goes on. That's true. I don't know how much communication goes on outside of us, but I feel like one of the biggest issues marathons...
Well, you also saying that, but also I've never bothered asking.
Yeah.
True.
So it's not like this is something we've...
But that's what I'm getting at. It's the same exact problem with the wikis. No one's bothering to do it, and I feel like a lot could be gained. Like, people think that NASA is some anti-GDQ marathon, and like, it's like, what... everyone on staff has been to GDQs. We all like going to GDQs. Like, there's no... Like, that's bullshit.
Yeah,
right?
To me, it's like people that think that, like, originally, it's like, I just thought it was funny, so I didn't even bother correcting. It's like, all right, you want to think dumb crap, go for it. I'm not going to stop you.
Yeah. So, what do you think, as an outsider, but as someone who works on another marathon?
So, first I will say I have not really seen much NASA. And it's not because I particularly try to avoid you guys or anything.
There's a lot of marathons.
I'm just not all that tuned in the marathon scene outside of GDQ stuff. Like, I barely have the time and motivation to work on the games that I have. So I don't really have anything that I can say specifically for NASA. For the most part, though, I would say that it is difficult to coordinate some of these things because of different timescales. For example, how much ahead of time do you try to plan your events?
Well, the hotel, we would want to get that signed at least like 7 months-ish ahead.
Okay.
At least.
Yeah.
So I think
At least.
I think we are on something like almost 2 years.
Yeah,
ahead.
Right.
And there's a lot of different decision making that comes in with that.
Because for us, it's purely just dicking around for a week, so it's very different.
In terms of like planning out some of the other promotional things and trying to figure out what dates we're going to have for example, when registration opens up and things like that. That I want to say we actually had meetings to discuss that probably within a month after the previous event, just to try and get things started. So it from my experience doing that kind of stuff, it's just constantly staying on top of preparing for the next event. And beyond that, like I think that's my fill for doing marathon stuff. So I hear about marathons that go on every so often. I support them in that just anything getting more eyes on speedrunning, more celebration of the hobby is all good stuff.
Right.
But lately, I've not found the time to go out and watch too many of them, is what I'll say.
I guess that could be another thing, is an information database for people that have made marathons. Like, here's the things you should do. some problems, like things you should absolutely avoid if you're looking at a hotel. That could, I mean,
very
that's
much so.
it's much less sought after information, but it's still useful nonetheless. Like I could say, if there ain't food within like a 30-minute drive, do not go there, please. Please.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that's like because literally, yeah. Well, I guess with GDQ has a lot of things to think about. But for like NASA, it's like the very first thing I look for in a city is like 24-hour Tim Hortons, 24-hour Denny's, and it's like because Omnigamer, you're at SU 2013, the Sheraton Denver Tech Center, and that was like like a 24
decided
IHOP.
It was going to be not 24 hours anymore.
Yeah, they closed down for like 4 hours for like maintenance right when the marathon ended, which was hilarious.
wow.
And but it's like if a place has a 24/7 IHOP or some shit beside it, like that's good. That is really good because when you're doing a 24-hour event, it's like at 3 a.m. someone could finish a run and be like, "All right, I want to eat something." And if you have that option, it's like that's awesome.
I mean, I think that we start looking for for our next event space, like maybe like 2 weeks after the event ends.
Yeah, because it's like I'm always I'd be like I'm always down to like whatever how many years in advance. If a place has a good location, it's like all right, I'll bookmark it.
Yeah, like this year's hotel. This year's hotel, in theory, on paper, sounds amazing. There's a bowling alley in it. There's all kinds of food and stuff to do. But it's just like ESA's old venue where you have to travel like an hour from the airport by like bus.
Oh, dude, ESA, okay, the one in
I know it was longer.
Where it was like, I took 3 planes, 2 trains, and a bus. Jesus. And it's like, it's literally bumfuck nowhere. The one in Hovde, or it was like SKOVDE, and the O had a umlaut, and it was like Hovde. It's like I don't understand. Vekwa was even worse. So VA umlaut XJO with an umlaut, and that's Vekwa, not Vacchio.
Vaxjo.
Vaxjo. It's like Vekwa, and it's like and all the Swedes were like like. Any other Swedish words will be like mostly phonetic, but like some really old towns, it's just not going to make any sense because it's going to be like phonetic Swedish from like 5 centuries ago, and it just does not. There's no correlation, and it's like That was probably my biggest issue with the venue, though, is the name of the city. So I mean, that's a good. That is good praise, I guess.
So like. But we're gonna have to see, like if this place works great, then great. We found a place that we could reliably be at potentially, you know, right? And it's got a shit ton of like conference space. So like theoretically, it could be good, right? But the thing is that like I don't know if I would want to get locked in like that. Like, have you guys run into any issues with being locked in that you know of? I guess. Like, where you plan out 2 years ahead of time and then you realize, oh, crap, we needed more space. I guess, with the
AGDQ marathon, hotel they've used like 3 times in a row.
Right.
But I don't know.
They had to have overflow for that.
I mean, that's...
I don't
know how much...
So was that a disadvantage to that?
We try and plan out at the time of, like, when we actually need to book, like, what our expected sizes be. And we still try and make sure that amenities are going to be all set and all the rest of that stuff. So it's always a consideration. Whatever happens by the time that actually comes down, like in the past, I know that some of the places that we've been considering were like, oh yeah, it'll be fine by the time you have your event, but note that 3 months before that, we're under construction. And it's just like, oh no, hold on a moment. And in those kinds of situations where you really don't have insight into what the space is going to be like, or heaven forbid the construction runs long, there's just some things that you need to either take the gamble on or just say no thanks. And we try and do a lot of checking up on those kinds of things.
Yeah, I remember 2015, SGQ Hotel was under construction. Only one elevator was in service, and then that elevator fucking broke on the 4th floor, and everyone had to use stairs.
Goddamn, people doing the stupid elevator races, and then the escalators broke. I loved SGDQ 2015. It was great.
2015 it was the last GDQ I went to. It was fun aside from that was they learned afterwards. It's like food trucks. Let's get food there because there's fucking nothing there. And the food issue at SGDQ 2015 sucked.
I liked SGDQ 2017 where it was half SGDQ and half high school girls volleyball tournament. That was a pretty good one. That was an amazing hotel.
I guess I kind of want to just plan a NASA that's also at like a giant furry convention or something.
Put NASA
isn't that already every speedrunning marathon? SGQ 2014, like in the room beside it, there was like some kind of pyramid scheme thing going on. But I think there was also
which one?
There was one day where there was like a bondage.
Oh yeah, chocolate mangasm
thing. Chocolate mangasm.
Yeah, never forget.
I kind of wish I
only
went
90s
to that.
kids.
That was the rom-com that was there before us, and then there was a boxing match that was next door at some point. A legit boxing match with a ring and everything.
I didn't know about that one.
Yeah, that was I think right before they had the bounce night, and then many people in suits waiting outside the hallway to learn about their pyramid scheme thing. This was the second of them. A different one was there before. So 2014 was all kinds of amazing for the wrong reasons.
It was. I'm glad it was my first GDQ. Let me just put it that way.
Because there is a certain appeal to having just like every day there's some weird random shit going on. So I imagine it's like if you're going to use a hotel like that, ideally it would be only if you have enough people to rent every fucking room the whole time.
Yeah.
Because that way you don't have to deal with that weird shit.
Do we want to talk about SRL season?
We have to. That's huge news, I think. Like 5 years in the making. How can we not talk about that?
Like, there's people who are...
Let's actually get on topic.
Yeah, there's I imagine there's people who are like, they joined speedrunning and they're considered old boys and they're like, what the fuck is SRL seasons?
Exactly. There's people who've joined recently who don't know, forget seasons, they don't know what SRL is.
Yeah,
I know what SRL is, and I sort of know what SRL seasons are, but I think I need an explanation.
All right, I can do
a brief overview.
Many moons ago, back in the day, you have to crawl through the ether to get to SRL season 1. This was a proposed idea, I forget by who, that these would be regular things, and you'd get like badges and stuff for how well you do, and there'd be X amount of games. I remember SMB1 Warpless was one of them. Super Mario Bros, not Super Meat Boy. But there's a million SMBs, I realize. Anywho, it'd be like a bunch of popular games, and there would be regular races, and they would all be... The results would always be tracked by race spot. I don't know if they were like scheduled races or if it was just a bulk do all the races, and whoever does the most races and wins. They should be scheduled races, but you know.
Yeah, I think it was like scheduled for like a month or two sort of deal.
Yeah. But anyway, they took a bunch of popular games and then some sort of like Give Up Robot, some like obscure niche games for me, you know.
That's not even too obscure. That's like one of the more well-known Flash games.
Well, I think it is because as far as speedrunning goes, I think Seasons was like why Give Up Robot had a lot of speedrunning attention to it.
Yep.
And then that happened, and I don't know, I wouldn't say it was a big success, but I think people liked it. I participated, and it was cool. It was a reason.
I don't know why
they
had such a long hiatus for the second.
Yeah, so it's so weird because after season 1 end, they announced season 2. Season 2 is happening. Get ready.
And everyone was like, all right, cool,
they even teased
2.
games. I remember learning I learned Richter Allbosses for season 2, and then it never happened.
Do you regret that?
No, it was fun. It's a PS1 game, dude.
Yeah, there you go.
But seasons 2 is happening. What genius? What madman?
I have no idea
Who's
who
organizing
runs SRL. I don't even know who runs SRL, let alone seasons.
Yeah, I don't either.
Is it Giano? Is he back from the dead? Like,
I did see him streaming last month.
I'm gonna go to the website.
Was that the precursor to seasons 2? Was a random Giano stream?
He was playing the annual Adventure Island.
Fuck, Adventure Island Season 2.
Yep.
They haven't released the games yet. Yeah, let me actually look, because I know they're doing
Joke
like
Crew is
this
back,
incremental
baby. Joke
week by
Crew.
week kind of. This is the game. It's almost very similar to SGL, where you'd have
where do
like
I
a
find
week
it?
to learn. You can find it on like Speedrun's live Twitter, probably.
I'm on their main page. I don't see anything about it.
I found it on Games Done Quick Twitter, actually. But
That's see, that to me is like disappointing.
well, that actually, I mean, where is it? Oh, it's all
They no longer have a
SGDQ
tab
stuff
for
now.
seasons up top. They used to have
Yeah,
a
they used
tab
to have
there
a
for a
tab.
long time.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, there's not.
I'll link this tweet in chat or something.
I just think if anyone knows whoever is doing this, they should tell them that it would be a good idea to put it on their front page.
It would. Oh, wait.
There you go.
Oh. Why isn't Caveman
I wasn't gonna say anything.
I'm not logged in, so I can't mod.
I just modded you.
There. Now I have a
There
sword.
you go.
All right, so yeah, full
During
full
events,
details.
we mod a lot of people, so we usually purge mods after each one, and you might have gotten purged.
Now, the thing with SRL Season 2, though, like, are they still using IRC? Like, do people still want to go?
No, they have a Discord.
Yeah.
They made a Discord server, and I'm pretty sure they're.
All right, so the
Functionality, I
seasons
think
tab
it'll
is
work.
still there under the races tab on SRL, but it's not been updated
Okay.
for season 2. Which actually, this is pretty interesting to look at the games that were season 1. This
Oh,
is like
yeah.
a blast from the past. God, I learned Portal for this fucking thing. And it's not even on here. What the hell? Wow, crazy.
So,
Nimbus, dang, remember that game?
Like, I am sad that the
yeah.
joke of seasons is no longer going to be.
yeah, we can't say
two.
seasons when now.
'Cause I remember I was like, I think it was like a HQ 2017 or something, like during an interview, someone asked Blecky, it's like, when's my badge? And he's like, I am the interviewer, not the
Oh
interviewee.
my gosh.
Just like total deflection.
Hold on, I'm just gonna eat some ice cream cake real quick.
It's like, now that joke, it's dead. Although maybe there'll be even a longer hiatus between 2 and 3, who knows? Hopefully not. I mean, it's fun.
So yeah, anyone have any particular opinions on is anyone gonna participate? I might. Who knows?
Depends on the game.
See, that's the
Yeah.
thing. There's one thing. There's something.
Yeah.
I don't think there's gonna be any PS1 games. I think it's all gonna be PC games.
I have barely for the most part, I have very little interest in like.
It
picking
says
up a
it
game
says
that's not
right
a
here that no games will require analog inputs. So what the heck? This is Mystery Tournament all over again. Where's the goddamn PS1 games?
I mean,
This is a crime, is what I'm trying to say.
I don't know. I think that the problem that I see here is that I just don't want to play any video games. So why would I want to do this?
I mean, if one of the games for seasons was level and alt and WoW, I'd be set, but I don't think it will be.
Yeah.
Level 1 to 100, new account, no bonuses.
I did that this week, man.
The thing is, I'm looking at season 1, right? And like, I don't see really any games that I have a ton of interest
Yeah,
in.
but you have to imagine that
Maybe
back
Super
in
Mario
2013, these were the speedruns.
That's, yeah.
And even if you don't want to run, it still is fun to watch.
Give
Yeah.
Up Robot was the speed
Well,
run.
that was one of the
Yeah.
That was a shit.
That's like for a Flash game, it's a pretty good speedrun.
It is.
Credit where it's due.
Anyone could do it.
Because most Flash games are like hot garbage, but that one, it's all right.
Yeah.
What's your dog's name?
Oh, this is Eska.
It's
Eska.
our new guest for the podcast. We got to interview the dog now.
Yeah. What did the dog think of Dragster?
The dog was very confused by Dragster. You can see this in the video.
Actually,
Makes
He's
sense.
in the background,
Crap.
and like when I
know,
start yelling, he's like, "What? What's going on?"
for Barney's hide and seek, I just had like it's talking about my dog, it's my sister's dog, just like laying his paw, holding left on the controller, and that's like if you just move left through the game, you will beat it after like 4.5 minutes or something like that. So it's like in Dragster, can you beat it by holding left or something? Or do you actually need to push a button at least
How
once?
about this? Here's a hot topic. What games, no, assuming that there's no actual good PS1 games, I mean, and which is good games, goes without saying. Assuming there's no good games, what games do you guys think would be good games for seasons? For like a 1 week race that all the kids could play.
I mean, Super Meat Boy,
Well, yeah.
like the usual. They're pretty much like.
Fucking have a week to learn the
I don't
Super
think
Meat
you
Boy.
need
I
to
don't know about
ask
that.
us because like you're essentially asking. It's like what are like the popular games?
Yes,
that you can play on
Niglaria.
PC?
That's what I'm asking.
I'm just gonna say F-Zero GX because fuck everybody
Alright.
that doesn't play F-Zero GX.
I just don't see myself wanting to play any games that don't like. I just don't see myself wanting to play any games like.
But you
that are
could
that
win.
old,
You
to
could
be
win a
honest.
Nintendo Switch.
Too few bits for you.
I mean, I like old games, but I don't want to speedrun them really. Like, I want to speedrun like PS1 and up. Like, genuinely.
I know,
Like, if I'm
PS1
gonna
is
learn
considered
something, if
old.
I'm gonna put the
The
effort
PS1
in,
is retro.
I want to play something with more modern.
You
like,
consider
controls.
PS1 not to be old? Like what's
I know. I consider PS1 to be like more modern control style. Like, and I
so
don't
you
like
merely mean
old
just, like-
controllers.
okay?
Generally speaking,
You need analog
Like,
controls, which
so it's personal
which this
preference.
explicitly says there will be no
Right.
analog controls.
You
Right,
can
so
play
that's the thing,
F-Zero
like-
GX with a D-pad and not using the analog stick, so that's perfectly acceptable.
If Portal was on here, that would be
Portal was
something I'd
season
be
1.
interested
I'm
in,
surprised it's not
right?
on season 1, like on the list.
I don't see it. But like if Portal was on there, right? Like that would be a game I would definitely be interested in like
Yeah, I
playing.
learned it.
Like,
Oregon
for a week,
Trail
if I
race.
donated a week of time to it, like that'd be fine.
A fucking race of
Like,
Oregon Trail
I don't care if I
would
win.
be so awful.
Everybody would die.
That's like as far as like random games go, like that's literally
Speedrun The Sims,
like
kill the family.
100 people start, and it's like one guy finishes his first like attempt without dying. That'd be fucking awful for racing. But it's like
Yeah, this format is very similar to what SGL used to be back in the day. But I'm interested. So I guess you have a week to learn the game, and then there's the race. And then the top 16, like that race is not the race. That's a qualifying race. And you then get put into a 16-person bracket to figure out how you win. What do you guys feel about like a tournament style bracket to determine speedrunning? Do you think it works? Because people have been discussing that a lot, especially our last episode where we discussed that implicitly. But
yeah, I think like the format Feasel uses, I think is like they kind of like have dealt with this like problem. What is the best thing? And it's like what they have kind of seems.
God,
to
why the
work
hell could they
for
announce
them.
this when Feasel was on the show?
Yeah. So I imagine like do what Feasel does with speedrun tournaments.
Right.
Otherwise, it would probably just be like depending on like the number of runners and the length of the category they're playing, it would change entirely. Because like it's not like because it could be like, if it's like 40 minutes or like 2 hours, that's gonna change like logistically what you can do.
Well,
How many people did get into SGQ? Actually, I'm just not relevant to what we're talking about here, but it's like what was the phase 1?
phase 1 was 1,000, and there's currently 1,024 people who got in.
Yeah.
And that was like 15 minutes.
Yeah, 15 minutes.
So I imagine like, so it's like if you get a run in or something, they'll like just shoo you in basically. But it's like if someone who's just like, they're just a fan of speedrunning and they just want to, hang out with friends or something, maybe they're just a friend of a speedrunner. It's like, if you were working or if you were just like doing something for 15 minutes, it's like, fuck you. It's weird.
I would be really interested to know how many of that 1,024 people are, whether or not they have a run-in, are speed runners.
Well, no one has a run-in yet.
Run any game.
I know that. I've seen people like they could. I don't know if you're like disinterested. It's like even if it's like every single one, it's like none of them's ever done a speed run in their life. They're just fans. It's like if they want to attend, go for it. I don't think it's like not like being a speedrunner.
Yeah, I don't think only. I don't want GDQ to
saying.
be like SpeedCon or anything, but
yeah,
I don't think we should.
But that being said,
Right.
I do think it would be interesting to know. But it's like that's that kind of like getting that kind of demographic information takes work, and they've already have work to do. So I don't think they're gonna bother getting statistics for people just for like stat nerds.
I would just be very interested to know. It would really be interesting to know, yeah. Because, like, I want to know how many speedrunners treat GDQ as their convention for the year, right? Like, or whatever. Because that's just an interesting stat to me.
I guess, the people who aren't speedrunners that go to it as fans, I guess for them it is a convention. I guess.
PAX is my convention, and I never want GDQ to turn into PAX.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think GDQ ever would, though.
Because I guess,
PAX is like such a broad category.
So it's like, I'd be interesting to see like where GDQs do take, because it's like, it's like they understand that size is an issue and like what they do about it. Yeah. There's a lot of things they could do. I'd be curious to see what happens.
I could see GDQ growing to like MagFest size, but like not bigger than that. Like I don't think even current MagFest size might be a little ambitious. Like speedrunning's more niche than PAX or MagFest. You know, I don't think
if anyone has questions in chat, type them now, because I'm getting to the point where it's like, man,
we got one question so far, so maybe we can ask that while we wait for other questions to roll.
Because another like we had 3 topics
it's
here of
color
SRL
that I
season
can't
2,
read.
SRL season 2, SU registration between that drama, and I have no idea what that's referring
Dragster.
to.
Sure.
Dragster.
I think the only truly fresh drama is the Bubbles ban. But I don't know if we want to talk about that.
I mean, I know a lot about it.
I don't know what there is to talk about, really.
Well, it's like what he said is like everything that needs saying.
Right.
I've actually thought about this once, and I would like to say something. So whenever anyone gets banned, you never hear Games Done Quick say, "We have chosen to ban this person for X, Y, and Z reason." They shouldn't have to, but I'm saying we only get the person who was banned saying, "This is what I think." And I feel like it inevitably paints GDQ in negative light. Hot take.
I think it is a negative light, but it's a very tiny light. And even for like people that like, because Bubbles is a cool dude, and I think it's like, they might have like overreacted, but it's like,
I don't think
this is their event.
I don't think they did.
I understand what that's because I think it's, some people get mad. It's like, banning. It's like they see it. It's like, this is to be a public event. Everyone should like deserve to go. Where it's like, I think it's like, if they just want to ban someone because they don't like the look of their face, it's like, all right, they can do that. This is their event. Mm-hmm. It's like, ban who you want. So I don't really give a shit.
Absolutely. I read a little bit about it, and I absolutely believe that like it makes perfect sense that he's banned. Like I just don't even like the whole situation. To me makes perfect sense. But the thing is that like from my perspective of the whole situation, I don't even care if they list the reasons. I just would like to know that people got banned in general, like, so that you don't just have some rando come out and be like, GDQ banned me.
I was looking through some Twitter thread, and some guy I've never heard of was just like, "Why'd I get banned?" And I was like, "Who are you?"
Like, right?
And then I looked through his Twitter, and I didn't get an answer.
Because it's super contextual. Because it's like, if someone was like, I don't know, if they were like on the GDQ stream, like saying death threats, then they would probably be like, okay, it's like this dude is banned. But for a lot of the things that are like, it's not even on stream. It's just like someone at the hotel like did something wrong. It's like that's. If like, I think the only thing that would ever like require mentioning of stuff, it's like it was actually on stream and it was a problem. Otherwise, it's like it's like it's not really related to the stream, which is like what the point of the event is, sort of. I don't know. It's their decision.
Right.
I mean, I totally understand it. I would also have banned him if that was our event. To be completely honest with you, that would be my call on that. Like, the thing is, if you're not going to be responsible, then you're not responsible enough to attend the event. That's really all it boils down to. Like, That's it.
I can't comment specifically on the bubbles stuff.
Nor would we ask you to.
Yeah.
I'm not asking.
But I will
Yeah,
just
no.
say that if somebody gets banned for whatever reason, we absolutely tell them why. And we don't publicize it simply because it's not really public business. So
Yeah.
anything else that comes afterwards,
completely agree.
that's on them. And that's why we simply don't comment on any of the decisions relating to that. Because
That makes sense.
I
to
think
me.
that's like how you should be going about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's just to reiterate our policy on
Yeah.
that.
Well, yeah, sure. And I mean, we didn't ask you here to be a GDQ
I forgot
staff
he was
person.
staff, to
That's
be
not
honest.
why you're here.
I wanted to talk about the
that's
book
not,
and
that's
Dragster.
not the point. Right, exactly. Like, so I hope you don't feel like I'm putting you on the spot or
No,
anyone's putting you on the
that's
spot
fine.
for this stuff, because, yeah.
Anyway, I guess, back on Dragster, Alt Insider had a question way earlier of, like, have you done any, like, fake run analysis or just any kind of, just, like, whether or not a run is legit, kind of, like,
There's been a
science.
big upswing in that lately of people going through legacy runs trying
yeah.
to.
Shout-outs to Lee, dude.
You really started a movement
Lee
there.
with the controller cam.
I'm not particularly motivated just to go and like, I wonder if anything's up with this
Like,
historical
scrutinize.
run or anything like that. Like I explained earlier in the show the reasons that I went specifically for Dragster.
Right.
The only other kind of analysis that I've done in that same, like trying to catch somebody in a lie, so to speak, is just during the Dragster stuff, some of the other records that would show up on TG for other Atari games or whatever else that had like a seemingly impossible score, I would do just some extremely basic hackery to try and figure out, hey, is this even a score that you can get? Like, I think I looked at Centipede, for example.
Oh,
that
yeah.
65 million one.
65 million, yeah.
My first question was, can it actually display 65 million?
Can it, actually?
It can. I
wow.
went
Not
through and it rolls over after that. But I just wanted to answer that question. That was just a point of curiosity for me. So I found that out.
Do you verify runs for any of your games?
You mean for like
Speedrun.com?
Yeah.
It's just in general, yeah. Yeah, and speedrun.com, I guess, would be the
Or like any SDA runs that you may
Yeah.
have verified in the past.
I mean, I've verified a number of them in the past, and I, for the SDA runs that I worked with, I did due diligence as far as like just making sure that commodities like health and things didn't suddenly change between screens. But for a lot of the games that I was looking at, I wasn't completely knowledgeable on them to the point where I'd be able to catch somebody doing something particularly nefarious. And I mean, really, that's to have that as an expectation, like as a legitimate expectation that you at a verifier would be able to catch any type of cheating is just unrealistic. And that goes with any type of flow. At the very least, you can just find things based off of glaring flaws from the start.
I guess, I actually had a question. Like, I was asking someone else, but I guess like if you're actually like a computer engineer, dude, how hard would it be to make a program that like the spectrogram that reads audio as like the audio like to lines?
So I actually
make a-
looked at this in the past.
Oh,
And the answer is way more technical, but the
sure.
simple side is that it would be easy. Because what you're really looking for is sudden shifts in phase.
yeah, like to get a program that would just like go through like videos and to look for shifts like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the short answer is that it would be possible. The thing is, I don't know how much success you'd actually have with that, simply because, like, what that's meant to catch is splicing, right?
Yes.
And with the way the technology that we have now, splicing is one way you can do it, but there's almost certainly an easier way to cheat than just trying to stitch things together poorly.
And could you get false positives? I have
That
no idea.
you possibly could, and that could also be an artifact of where you're getting the video from. Like, if nobody's using SDA anymore, they're probably not sending the videos directly to SDA to host, and that means that people are trying to pull runs off of YouTube, and YouTube could have done whatever YouTube does to them. They could be stream VODs. Like, there's a lot of things that could throw you that might confuse. So it's not a perfect solution. It's something that could be made.
Because I'm curious to have just to have some kind of programs like that which would just like automate checking for certain ways of cheating, even if it's like if it's not like the most common way, it's still something. It'd be neat just to see if it could be done, even if it's not
you
that
run
helpful.
into some issues too if you're looking at games that commonly put up their runs with loads removed.
Oh
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So things like that.
So I guess, like, do you think that having gone through everything with Dragster is as far as I know, you said it wasn't influencing the history side of the book, but are you going to add any, or has it influenced anything as far as adding or potentially considering anything like about verifying runs or about telling, because you put all the time into practice your run and then you spread your game around. Is that an aspect of like the experience of speedrunning?
I would say that is still separate from speedrunning. Like, if you are interested in doing that, there's resources that you can go and try and check into that. But by and large, trying to like detect cheating and something else is hopefully not something that you have to do as a speedrunner. So that's not something that I included. I do have a chapter on cheating specifically that covers kind of the motivations behind why somebody would cheat and just why it's a problem or why it's important. But I don't go into how do you pick it apart or anything like that.
Right.
How do you expect... So I'm just going off of some of the earlier questions here.
It's like if someone who's like super focused on a speedrun, they don't know like other non-speedrun information about a game, and if they made like false misinformation based on that of their centralized super specific knowledge, or just I guess just misinformation in general for like a database, is kind of how I interpret that question. Is like, how would you deal with information that's wrong in community where it's like only one person is putting the information there?
I mean, that's not really how I took it, but I mean, I took it as like if you see a game where like you've got like 2 runners or 3 runners or something like that, and they are all doing the exact same route because someone did this one route right.
Oh yeah,
but there's totally better stuff going on, like. And
I think that's I don't think that's so much a knowledge like a research question of like not enough research has been done, which is different from like tracking the knowledge that you already have.
Right.
It's like the same ballpark.
I think I kind of understand what this question is going at. An example I can give was with Grand Theft Auto Vice City, with the Cannonball K9 run that was on SDA. He did a different driving route, and when people were streaming on Twitch, they did not do that driving route. And people kept doing this driving route because, this streamer's doing it. And turns out the Cannonball K9 driving route was faster than what everyone else was now doing. So it's just, I think it's a chain reaction of people see someone doing one thing and it just keep going, and they forget to look back in the past and properly time things and go, oh, what's actually going on here?
Yeah, I think that's the thing that just applies to it's like misinformation in general that gets perpetuated. Then I guess with speedrunning, since it's like a lot more goal oriented, it's easier to see if it's like you can just time what's faster or slower.
Yeah.
And while people might be like lazy, they just like see someone else do it, so I'm just going to do that. It's understandable.
This is something I bring up in my chapters on the practice of speedrunning. So this is the how-to guide of my book. And as part of that, I say that if you're starting out on a game, you should be involved with each step of it. Like, you might have some information that's already out there for you. Like, other people have done work and say, hey, I've made these decisions based on what I had. And you can certainly accept that information. But at some point, you should also be involved with testing it out yourself, making sure that you don't see another solution. And this is something that comes up a lot, not because people are dumb and they don't think about things. It's just when you're speedrunning a game, you're already playing for thousands of attempts in a lot of cases. And you settle into a rhythm and you start to kind of get tunnel vision. You're locked into doing things a certain way because that's the way you've done them. And you really need somebody else with a fresh set of eyes. And it's just like, well, you could also just use the back door. And there's a lot of revelations that happen that way. And it's just, you need those other insights. And if you're simply going to try and emulate the runs that are out there, you're not going to be able to advance the game beyond what it currently is very well.
So basically what you're saying is don't just grind attempts. You have to actually try to find new stuff in your game. You can't just go with what's
There's
established.
a lot of well-known cases of people just not checking Nico or the Nico RTA wiki or YouTube. Just YouTube your game plus the word glitch.
It's like
and
the instruction manual
completely all of a sudden.
The instruction manual could label an action or tech that you didn't know about.
That's happened.
Right.
Yeah.
There's honestly, and there's a non-zero chance of people playing games right now. There could be some hot tech on SDA, but because the most popular streamer of the day does a certain route, no one's going to look because lol SDA. It's obvious. A run on SDA is inherently out of date in the minds of a lot of people, even if it is the record still.
Right. I don't even know if it's that no one's going to look. I think that even no one looking for the tech. I think that there's probably games on speedrun.com that people did this route and everyone did the route and no one actually tried to find anything new, just in general. I think that that's part of the issues is people, if a game is small enough, because it was a question about smaller communities, if a game is small enough, I think that there's just not people putting the time in, to discover new stuff.
Well,
there's people in the Souls community that literally don't speedrun, but do look for faster speedrun stuff.
There's a couple different things with that too, where the face of speedrunning is doing attempts. You don't go and watch people route a game typically. Some people do stream that, and it's great.
I love routing
games. But for the most part, what's going to get the viewers is you sitting down and trying to grind out that 104 Super Mario Odyssey or something like that. And that's what people see. So they just think, hey, I'm going to go and do that. And I'm just going to do the exact same things and we're going to jump right in. But the full process, you're missing out on a lot of knowledge that would actually get you going. Let's see. There was another question here on cheating, whether it was rampant in the early days of SDA.
I don't think any more than it is today. Maybe at least a little less. Certainly not more than today, but it could happen. There probably are.
There were a couple of notable runs that were.
I don't even know if the usage of the word rampant is appropriate in this case.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
It rampart specifically. It's an R, not an N.
Yeah. I think that was a typo.
Yeah.
Would be my guess. But the thing is that I can't really. If I could guess when the most cheating took place, it wouldn't be speedruns. It would be really old retro games like Dragster. It would be games like that where I would expect there to be the most cheating, to be honest with you, because there was so much less of a chance of getting caught.
Well, there's so many fewer artifacts too that give testament to whatever you try to achieve.
Oh yeah, Cody recently is he's been routed Dead Space on his own just because he was interested in the game, and found the SDA run is guaranteed. He hasn't found proof yet, but he's if you understand the gameplay, it's this is it's not human what he's doing, and he'll get perfect reaction times, perfect luck, stuff like that. It looks like a task sort of deal,
right?
And it's that. That's shit like that. It happens. It's always happened. Well, it's happened a lot before. There's no reason to think it will never happen again, or that it didn't happen in the 80s or 90s. And it's
I would say that the general proportion of cheated runs to total run output has actually gone down, but that's mainly because there's just been more people. as opposed to.
I could see like but like also that speedruns got more popular. Like the allure of getting a record, if that's the motivation for cheating, would also be greater. But I guess
That's true.
I don't really understand. Like I've never bothered cheating shit myself, so I don't really know what like motivations people like. Because most of the ones I've seen were from like other runners who was like, I just didn't want to grind anymore or some shit like that. So I just put out a run where it's like I just didn't have to deal with this. Like they just got tired of it or something like that.
I guess. I mean, like.
So
I don't know.
It would depend on the motivation. Yeah.
I feel like it definitely, like I said, I think that with more people being caught, because a lot of people, like, since I started getting into speedrunning to begin with, a lot of people have been caught, and it's been more consistent. Like, it's growing, the number of people that are getting caught. I think it's a deterrent, like, people are starting, especially now, like what he was saying with what omnigamer was saying about like how he thinks the numbers have gone down. I agree with him. Like, I think that just in general, the fact that someone could easily like put the time in, the communities are big enough now. Speedrunning in general is big enough now that someone could very well put the time in to check and see if you're bullshitting. And like, if you are, they could very easily figure it out, So I think that that's kind of the big differentiator. I think that the numbers have definitely probably dropped off. I think we're just seeing a lot of people finding records that are older. Like the Super Meat Boy record. How long was that a record for? Yeah, right.
Well, I guess like, strictly speaking, it wasn't like at the time it was a record, but the run itself was passed as credible for years, but it was beaten. So it's like technically it wasn't a record. Until it was discovered to be
all right,
cheating.
let's get these last two questions, and then let's get out of
even
here.
if you take his word for it not to be RTA.
All right. So Mungo Meat's got, do you think speedrunning being heavily atomized over the last few years and the intense optimization many games have gone through has been a preferable direction for speedrunning compared to the older model of a more close-knit community of Renaissance man-like runners?
That's just specialization.
Yeah.
I mean, the more common it gets, the more like community, the larger the community gets, the more specialization there will be.
Like with Grand Theft Auto, used to be only like Atom AK, Oasis, S, and a few others running it, and then more and more people started running it towards 2013, and then the more people start running the game, the more shit that gets found out. So someone found out, oh, you can buy buildings by doing a replay and you keep your money, and then duping got found. So just more and more people, there's eventually gonna be that one person that wants to read the game code and fuck around and goes, oh shit, I broke the game. And I mean, I think Ocarina of Time was a similar thing. More and more people started running it, and Wrong Warp just somehow got found.
Oh, I guess like for him to say like, is it going in a preferable direction?
I think so.
I
think so. If you operate under the assumption that the goal of speedrunning is to beat a game as fast as possible, then this is a natural evolution.
But that does lead the question. It does beg the question of like, what is the preferable direction for you? Because if you just want to have like, you and like your three boys.
Yeah, if you want to be the old boys club and you're the speedrunners.
But it's
extreme, I guess.
I'd say I'd say it is better. And
I just don't think that in general, like Caveman said, the goal of speedrunning is to beat the game as fast as possible. So the more eyes you get on a game,
lately, popularly, it doesn't seem like that's the case. But I think the goal of speedrunning is to be.
Sure. That's in theory, that is the goal of doing a speedrun, right?
So a game
there are
or
no
a category.
Disadvantages. Yeah, there are zero disadvantages to more people getting into things so that the game is faster and more optimized. Like, that's just making it better. So, yeah.
Okay. And the last one here. Would you approach finding a potential way to break a game when you may have the means to do so, but not the knowledge to look into RAM values? For example, to check if anything that may lead into your desired outcome without brute forcing. I would say a lot of times you don't need the special skills to be able to read like the game's code or look at its RAM values or anything else like that to discover either an oversight or a glitch or anything like that. If you have a suspicion that these two walls are set up in such a way that if you just walk up to them and keep jumping, you might go through them, your best bet is just to keep trying that in different ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like if you just casually play a game a lot, you might notice some weird thing happen. And I'd say just keep an eye out for like when the game does something you don't expect, and then try to test that, see what happens.
Generally, stuff that happens in my games, it usually happens by accident over the course of doing many playthroughs and runs. And when that happens, I go, hey, this happened here. Let me replicate it in every other place in the game where it could potentially happen. And then once I understand how that works, I can take that understanding of this game into other games. Maybe the game has a sequel and the same thing happens. Mysteriously, there's always an infinite jump involving the slingshot in Ape Escape games. Why? Who knows? But they just, for whatever reason, slingshots equal flying in Ape Escape. That is a canon thing. So what works in one game might work in another game.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
especially if it's by the same developer. Like Dark Souls 2, when someone randomly discovered parry walking in PvP. This was like literally had nothing to do with speedrunning. It happened, right? Like when that happened, we were like, oh crap, let's figure out how that works. Let's get it consistent. We did that, and then we figured out where we could try to get around stuff and break the environment. We had no idea of the game code or anything like that. But we figured out that it was an animation cancel glitch. So then when Dark Souls 3 came out, the teardrop glitch that was so famously showed off at one GDQ at some point, that glitch, like, literally works exactly the same way. It's an animation cancel. Like, because people were like, they fucked that up last time. I bet they fucked it up again, even though they fixed it.
And sometimes you can go the reverse direction. Like, a primary movement tech in Ratchet and Clank 3 multiplayer deathmatch ended up being the primary speed tech in Ratchet and Clank 1. Just worked the exact same way.
Sonic games had a thing where it's like slope glitch, and Sonic 3 is where it's applied most. It was discovered in Sonic 1 when TNT looked to do it on Scrap Ring 3, where it's like essentially the level would have like some weird tricks discovered probably just from it's just wall clipping, so just moving in weird ways near walls. You found it's like the way slope glitch works, you land on a slope the same frame that you like leave it, sort of deal, or the slope is like destroyed if a thing goes astray, and then it's like whatever angle you set on, it's like even if you can run infinitely, so if a hill stops, you'll just keep running as if it didn't, and like games like even outside of Sonic games, like some like just there's there's common mistakes that a programmer could make, or just that a game could have.
The last thing that I want to say on this is that whenever you're looking at RAM values or code or anything like that, you're trying to understand more about how the game functions. So before you get to that point, you should already have an idea of what you're looking for. You're basically never going to find a new glitch simply by trying to read the game's code. There's just too much. You're going to get lost in so many different ways. So all the highly technical skill sets where you actually try to dig in and find out what values are changing and everything else, that comes after you've already found the glitch or the bug or the oversight. And simply, if there isn't one there, then there isn't one there.
Finding it.
It's not going to just
help you find it.
Be in there.
Yeah, there's not like the myth of I'll just sock folder my way through this wall here. That's not as much of a thing.
Even if you're like there was like it's like an error in code. Like the amount of knowledge and tooth combing you'd have to find, like literally like, this 0, that's not where it should be.
Like there's when people look at like memory addresses in an emulator, they're not looking at the matrix.
Yeah. Because pretty much like to use cheat engine, you're just like looking for, you already know what you're looking for going in. Yeah, it is to like to fine tooth, to understand some function. It's
I would be shocked if the extremely overwhelming majority of glitches that are actually useful in speedruns were not found just by playing the game a lot. It's like, and that's really what it boils down to. I think with speedrunning, if you're going to speedrun a game, you've got to play it a lot. You've got to know the game, and that's part of that first question where it was like people just running routes that they saw. Someone could just pick up a game and run a route that they saw in the world record video, and then no one ever finds the next glitch because they don't devote the time
Someone
to
could
it.
also run a game without even playing it casually. They just know the speedrun, that's the end of story.
Right.
Yeah, play the game casually, look at videos of someone else playing it, see, just like after playing a game enough, you'll notice weird behavior. That's my recommendation for glitch hunting.
And if you ever think you're bad at a game, just watch a DSP video and all of that will get cleared.
You never know. Even DSP might stumble into something that'll change your life as far as
and if you think you're a bad speedrunner, watch Mr. Speedrun, and then it's like, you know what? Maybe I am really good.
Well, Naglaria said the magic word. He said recommend. So I think it's our closing segment. Before we get to plugs, we're gonna recommend something, and I have something pretty special. I've actually got a pre-release version of the special edition remake of Dark Souls. I've got it right here. It's Legends of Dark Souls. Because it's on the Wii. Yeah, it's Legends of Dark Souls because you can play as Zelda. It's on the Switch rather, which is why it's also T-rated. It's not as good as original Dark Souls, but now that the Demon Souls servers are down, I'm just saying, it's only a matter of time. So go out and get yourself a copy of Legend of Dark Souls to really enjoy it while you can.
I'm gonna stop getting Bitcoin and just get copies of Legend of Dark Souls and amass it.
Don't forget to get Dragster from your local retro game store.
Oh,
yeah. I just want to say that I've totally posted a picture of that from.
Yep, I was at Walmart today and I bought it. That was the train of thought. I was like, there it is, gonna buy that.
I guess my recommendation would be if you like a console a lot, get flash drives. I mean, it's cheaper than buying each game individually, and it's convenient. And they might not be able to play every game like Night Trap on the Sega CD32X, but they're. If you just like playing games, I mean, they're a good investment.
And don't forget to read omnigamer's book if you're in chat. You got a link right there, and I assume there will be a link down below on the YouTube video. There's a preview right now. The full thing is coming soon. It's on the fangamer.com/product/speedrun-book. And yeah, check it out.
Or you can just go to speedrunscience.com.
That as well.
It's even easier.
Oh, shit.
Much easier. So what's your recommendation, Ami?
My recommendation is somebody should play the games that I've speedrun.
Ooh, that's always a good
All right,
one.
I'm going to play Dragster just for you.
That's a good one.
Well, let's not do Dragster.
Actually,
Win Skyblazer.
Last year, I did plan on getting a Game Gear and playing through what's the action RPG? Yeah, I wanted to play through that because that looks like a pretty cool game. Mm-hmm. And there's another one like Psychic World or something.
Psychic World is
it's like a
interesting
platformer
too. Yeah.
Or it looks like it's not like a great game, but still like fun.
Mm-hmm. Future Omni runs the hottest games.
The guy the guy he didn't ship it and eventually got a refund. And I was just like, well, I'm fuck. It was not meant to be. Someday I'll get around to it.
I'm gonna recommend buying a Game Gear and playing Sonic Triple Trouble.
Oh, because of all the games to recommend.
I know, of all the games to recommend.
Like there's actually like pretty good games. And,
but I don't want to play
yours
good
is
games.
Gigantic.
Is this HDMI out?
Like this is like it's absurd. It takes how many
Six,
double A's?
I guess yeah.
Six.
My recommendation.
Six double
my
A's,
recommendation then would be to get the AC adapter for the Game Gear. Do not put batteries in
I want a Wonder
thing.
Swan. When's
It's
Wonder
over
Swan
there.
capture? Come on, guys.
Wonder Swan capture's legitimately, technically impossible.
Okay.
The thing runs at 72 hertz.
All right. Well,
So
That's not impossible.
interesting.
I bet a data path could capture that. I bet I could get my data path to capture 72
okay,
hertz.
good luck
Get
tapping
yourself
into the
a
RGB lines.
Wonder Swan color.
See,
or
that's
crystal.
the actual
Yes.
problem. Yeah, that's the actual issue with Wonder Swan capture.
So I guess that's it for
that's
the
it.
episode. Thanks, Omni, for.
What about criticisms? We're not going to shit on stuff.
We've already
Fuck it.
shit on Dragster and Todd.
That's true.
I mean,
That's true. That's fair.
I just want to go get a drink
I
and
want
play
to
a
take a
video game.
piss.
Good man.
Yeah, that's That's
Just
It's
true.
almost
I need to
midnight. I
keep-
got dailies to do. Let's go.
I gotta do my cosplay shit.
All right.
So thanks for
Thanks
watching.
for being on,
Thank you.
Omni.
Thanks for having me.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Later, everybody.
Bye.
No Major Opinions was recorded in front of a live Twitch audience.